Chapter 2905. I've finally gotten rid of her. Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. After he left Yunqi Saintis, he teleported thousands of miles away and used the heaven-devouring secret skill to conceal his aura. Finally, he landed on a beautiful mountain peak and stopped. Ling Xiao felt very tired. Dealing with Yunqi Saintis was more tiring than fighting with others. Although he didn't encounter any danger when he sneaked into the immortal realm this time, it was still very thrilling and full of twists and turns. Only now did Ling Xiao believe that he was really safe. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for me to disguise myself as Lei Ling. Women are too scary. I'd better stay away from them in the future. However, if I want to find out about the immortal realm, it's best to look for the disciples of the celestial sex or the disciples of the big families. I wonder where I am now. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. There were 3,000 prefectures in the immortal realm. Each prefecture was hundreds of millions of miles wide. The entire immortal realm was probably a few times bigger than the divine realm. Lei Ling used to be a rogue cultivator. However, he was not very old. He was only a little over 1,000 years old, and had only been active in a few dozen prefectures. For example, the area that Ling Xiao was in now was very unfamiliar to him. He could not find anything special in Lei Ling's memory. It's best that you're not familiar with it. This way, I won't encounter those scary women. Ling Xiao thought to himself. He was currently in a desolate mountain range. Huge mountains rose from the ground in a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers. Ancient trees stood tall, and terrifying beast roars rang out from the mountain range, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Ling Xiao could even feel that there were ferocious beasts the size of small mountains in the surrounding mountains. They were absorbing the essence of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. Their auras were extremely powerful. Moreover, the mountains were shrouded in fog. Although it looked like fog, it was actually miasma. It emitted a 7-colored light. Under the sunlight, it looked a little demonic. When Ling Xiao had just arrived in the immortal realm, he had seen a lot of beautiful immortal paradises. No matter how he looked at it, this place did not look like a paradise at all. Instead, it was extremely evil and full of evil qi. The most important thing now is to find an immortal city to gather information. Ling Xiao thought to himself. At this moment, he had already retracted his aura and looked like an ordinary immortal. He leaped and flew into the distance. In the immortal world, saints, great saints, and sage kings were also called immortals, great immortals and immortal kings. Those below immortals were called immortal cultivators. The immortal race had their own cultivation system, but it was more or less the same as the god realm. If it wasn't for the fact that the immortal roots of the immortal world were special, and that Ling Xiao had already fused with Lei Ling's immortal root, he would have given up on the identity of Lei Ling. What are those fierce beasts doing? Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly flashed as he asked in surprise. In front of him, there was a gorilla that was as black as ink, an elephant with golden hair that shone with golden light, and a huge brown bear. At this moment, they were all tied up by thick chains and were working hard to dig the mountain. That's right, they were digging the mountain. The big bear, the elephant, and the brown bear all looked to be hundreds of feet tall. Their huge bodies were filled with explosive power, and each of them had a murderous aura. Moreover, judging from their auras, they were actually powerful demonic beasts that had already reached the immortal king realm. These 3 demonic beasts were working very hard. They had already dug out more than half of the mountain in front of them, as if the mountain was about to be emptied. It was as if they were looking for some kind of treasure. An old Taoist with white hair and beard held a horsetail whisk in his hand as he walked in the air. From the back, he looked like an immortal, but his appearance was a little ugly. He had shifty eyes and was commanding the 3 demonic beasts to work. Could it be that there's some kind of treasure in this mountain? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. However, the scene in front of him looked a little strange. Although the old Taoist had an immortal aura, and the immortal aura around him was incomparably pure, Ling Xiao could still feel that the old Taoist was most likely not a member of the immortal race, but more like a demonic beast that had attained Tao and cultivated the Tao of the immortal race. A demonic beast that cultivated the Tao of the immortal race was commanding 3 big demonic beasts to dig the mountain. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it. Just as Ling Xiao noticed them, The old Taoist also noticed Ling Xiao. Fellow Taoist, can you help me with something? The old Taoist's eyes lit up when he saw Ling Xiao. He immediately flew over and stopped Ling Xiao, chuckling as he asked, "What can I do for you, Taoist?" Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Fellow Taoist, there's an immortal crystal mine under this mountain, but there's a formation left behind by the immortal race experts. We can't enter it. Can you go ahead and break the formation? I'll definitely reward you handsomely. The old Taoist smiled at Ling Xiao. Immortal crystal mine? Ling Xiao was stunned. In the immortal world, immortal stones and immortal crystals were hard currencies. Immortal crystals were even more precious than supreme-grade immortal stones. Not only did they contain rich origin energy, but they also contained a trace of immortal spiritual energy from the immortal world. They were essential treasures for experts at the immortal king realm, and above to cultivate. Ling Xiao didn't expect that the old Taoist was digging here, because there was an immortal crystal mine here. That's right. If you can help me break the formation outside the immortal crystal mine, I'll give you 10,000 immortal crystals. How about that? The old Taoist said with a smile. Taoist, your cultivation is profound. If even you can't break the formation outside the immortal crystal mine, how can I break it? You think too highly of me. Ling Xiao pretended to smile bitterly as he said. His current cultivation seemed to be at the immortal realm. Naturally, he was far inferior to the old Taoist. There was even a trace of fear and trepidation on his face. Fellow Taoist, I won't hide it from you. I'm a demonic beast who achieved Tao. It's just that I accidentally obtained the immortal race's Tao technique, so my original body is still a demonic beast. However, the formation outside the immortal crystal mine was left behind by the immortal race experts. It has a great restraining effect on demonic beasts like me. I can't even get close to that formation. However, you're different. You're a member of the immortal race, so you'll definitely be able to break that formation. The old Taoist said with a smile. He was extremely honest and didn't hide his identity as a demonic beast. At this moment, the three demonic beasts, the gorilla, the elephant and the brown bear, also raised their heads and looked at Ling Xiao with incomparable eagerness. Since you trust me so much, I'll give it a try. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said with a smile. All right. Fellow Taoist, you're a straightforward person. Whether you can break the formation outside the immortal crystal mine or not, I'll give you 10,000 immortal crystals. The old Taoist's eyes revealed a trace of joy as he said. P.S. There are only 2 updates today. Everyone, rest early. Apex. Chapter 2906. Ling Xiao had already sensed that the old Taoist was up to no good. However, judging from the situation just now, if Ling Xiao did not agree, the old Taoist would probably attack him directly. Ling Xiao could clearly sense the old Taoist's deep malice and hidden murderous intent. However, Ling Xiao did not attack directly. Instead, he chose to beat the old Taoist at his own game. He also wanted to see what kind of treasures were in the belly of the mountain. The 3 ferocious beasts, the gorilla, the elephant, and the brown bear, made way for Ling Xiao to enter the belly of the mountain. The moment he entered the belly of the mountain, Ling Xiao could sense an extremely rich immortal spiritual energy. There were many immortal stones in the belly of the mountain, ranging from low-grade to supreme-grade immortal stones. These immortal stones were the minerals that accompanied the immortal crystals. Ling Xiao could sense that there were many dazzling immortal crystals in the depths of the mountain, which contained boundless origin energy and immortal spiritual energy. However, it was obvious that the old Taoist did not care about these immortal stones. What he wanted was the immortal crystals in the depths of the mountain. Ling Xiao headed towards the depths of the mountain, while the old Taoist followed behind him not far away, as if he was monitoring him. Naturally, the 3 demonic beasts stayed outside to protect him. Rumble. Finally, Ling Xiao saw the immortal crystal mine in the depths of the mountain. The blazing light was so dazzling that it was hard to open one's eyes. Immortal crystals were embedded in the mountain walls like bamboo shoots. They looked crystal clear and contained boundless energy. The boundless energy was even as blazing as lightning. It was intertwined with a gorgeous light, which was dreamy and hazy. However, in front of the immortal crystal mine, there was a transparent and dazzling barrier, which contain the power to seal and destroy. This is the formation. Young friend, please help me break this formation. The old Taoist pointed at the transparent barrier in front of him and smiled. No wonder they don't dare to go in and dig for the immortal crystals. This is a demon-suppressing formation that is specially used to suppress demonic beasts. However, it has no effect on the immortals. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Although he was unfamiliar with the array formations of the immortals, the array formations of the immortals and the array formations of the God realm ultimately led to the same destination. Both belong to the category of array formations. Ling Xiao had comprehended the heavenly capital scripture. The heavenly capital scripture was originally left behind by the heavenly capital emperor. It was an imperial scripture that contained the supreme origin of array formations. It was easy for Ling Xiao to sense the killing intent and destructive power of this immortal Tao formation that targeted demonic beasts. However, even though it was only targeted at demonic beasts, it wasn't that easy for immortals to enter. At the very least, they had to be at the immortal king state before they could enter. Moreover, this large formation contained an extremely powerful devouring power. If one were to forcefully barge into it, one's vitality would be instantly devoured by the large formation. There is actually a great formation outside of Fairy Crystal Mine. Could it be that there is an inheritance left behind by an expert? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. This immortal Tao formation was clearly left behind by the experts of the immortal tribe. It looked very ancient, and should have been here for a very long time. But for some reason, it was discovered by this old Taoist, and he even ordered the 3 ferocious beasts to dig here. Taoist, what kind of formation is this? How can I break this large formation? My cultivation is low, so I'm afraid it will be very difficult for me to break this formation. Ling Xiao pretended to be very confused and asked. This formation is called the mysterious yellow demon suppressing formation. It is a large formation specially used to suppress demonic beasts. However, it is very easy for you to break this formation. You just need to activate the immortal's blood essence and rush into the large formation. Then the formation will naturally collapse. You can take 10,000 of these fairy crystals. I won't go back on my word. The old Taoist smiled. I'll be damned if I believe you. If I really activate the immortal's blood essence and rush into the large formation as you said, I'm afraid even a sage king would be devoured by the large formation's devouring power. This old man is really up to no good. Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. However, he didn't show it on his face. He pretended to be excited and said, "Thank you, Taoist. In that case, I will break this formation for you." Boom. Majestic immortal's blood essence rose from Ling Xiao's body. Dazzling immortal light bloomed. He took a step forward and walked into the large formation. As if sensing the immortal's blood essence on Ling Xiao's body, the formation boundary in front of him trembled slightly. Runes intertwined and shone brightly, flickering unsteadily. Crack. When Ling Xiao walked into the boundary of the formation, the surroundings were instantly filled with dazzling immortal light. Runes began to wrap around Ling Xiao's body. At the same time, an incomparably majestic devouring power surged over, wanting to devour all of Ling Xiao's blood essence and life force. Taoist, why can't I enter the formation boundary? This large formation is actually devouring my life force? Save me, Taoist. Ling Xiao's eyes instantly revealed a panicked expression as he hurriedly pleaded to the old Taoist. Young friend, it is your honor to be devoured by the formation boundary and create an opportunity for me. Therefore, you should obediently die. Seeing that Ling Xiao had entered the formation boundary, the old Taoist's expression instantly became incomparably cold. He sneered and didn't look at Ling Xiao anymore. In his heart, Ling Xiao had already completed his mission and was a dead man. He carefully took out a rune that glowed with immortal light. In the blink of an eye, he slapped his palm on the formation's boundary. Open, the old Taoist growled. In an instant, the rune blossomed with dazzling light and formed a door of light above the formation boundary. Then the old Taoist stepped in and easily entered the formation boundary. So he needs an immortal to restrain the devouring power of the formation boundary, so that he can enter the large formation? Although Ling Xiao appeared to be in a state of panic and despair, he was laughing coldly in his heart. After entering the spirit formation boundary, Ling Xiao finally understood the profoundness of this large spirit formation. It was true that this large formation could suppress demon beasts and prevent them from entering. However, if an immortal with insufficient cultivation rashly entered, all of his life force would be devoured by the large formation. At that moment, a flaw would appear in the large formation. And the old Taoist had used this flaw to enter the large formation. Ha ha ha, these million immortal crystals are all mine. There's also the divine jade fetus left behind by the profound heaven immortal lord. With the divine jade fetus, not only do I have a chance to obtain the profound heaven immortal lord's inheritance, I even have a chance to break through to the immortal lord realm. What a great fortune! The old Taoist laughed loudly, his eyes filled with incomparable excitement. Looking at the dazzling immortal crystals on the mountain wall in front of him, his eyes were filled with incomparable fascination. What's the divine jade fetus? Suddenly, a curious voice sounded behind the old Taoist. Chapter 2907. The old Taoist priest's laughter came to an abrupt halt. His expression instantly became extremely unsightly. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he slowly turned around. Ling Xiao was standing behind him, unscathed. He was looking at him with a faint smile on his face. His expression was very calm. How could you escape the devouring power of the Xianhuang demon-suppressing formation? No. You're not an immortal. You're an immortal king? The old Taoist priest's gaze was extremely gloomy. He seemed to have thought of something and revealed a trace of shock. Only an immortal king could enter the formation boundary unimpeded. For Ling Xiao to be able to enter the formation boundary so easily, it could only mean that his cultivation must be above the immortal king level. What made the old Taoist priest even more shocked and furious was that he still could not see Ling Xiao's true cultivation. The aura that Ling Xiao revealed was still that of an immortal, but at this moment, it gave him an unfathomable feeling. Taoist priest, you haven't answered my question yet. What is the divine jade fairy fetus? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Kid, I really didn't expect that I would be wrong. You're actually an immortal king? But so what if you're an immortal king? If you dare to have any ideas about the divine jade fairy fetus, you must die. The old Taoist priest's face became somewhat distorted, and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Boom. The uneasiness in the old Taoist priest's heart grew stronger and stronger, but the killing intent in his heart also grew stronger and stronger. He roared angrily and instantly pointed at Ling Xiao's glabella. His fingers seemed traceless, ethereal, and mysterious. Even Ling Xiao was a little surprised. He actually felt a strange power of time from that finger. It was somewhat similar to the age destruction finger. Unfortunately, this old man was not even an immortal venerable. He was only an immortal king. Bang! Ling Xiao casually stretched out a hand and directly grabbed the old Taoist priest's arm. The old Taoist priest's expression suddenly changed. He felt that Ling Xiao's hand was like an iron clamp that contained an incomparably terrifying divine power, making him unable to move at all. Moreover, an incomparably terrifying thunderbolt bloomed in Ling Xiao's palm. In an instant, it was like a divine chain of order that directly penetrated the old Taoist priest's body. The old Taoist priest's body trembled and his face was incomparably pale. The blazing thunderbolt contained a trace of the Thunder Dao's origin. It was extremely terrifying. It crackling and crackling as it rushed into the old Taoist priest's body, sealing his cultivation. Immortal! Immortal venerable! The old Taoist shuddered, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. His face instantly turned extremely ugly. Is actually a immortal king. S.A. immortal. And immortal end. S immortal. Immortal venerable. This was definitely an immortal venerable expert. You are immortal venerable. How could you disguise yourself as an immortal? The old Taoist priest knew that he had kicked an iron plate. He complained incessantly in his heart, and was full of resentment toward Ling Xiao. That's right. It's not good to fight and kill. Now let's talk about what the divine jade fairy fetus is. Ling Xiao smiled and patted the old Taoist priest's shoulder. Who are you? Why do you want to be my enemy? The old Taoist priest stared at Ling Xiao and asked, Taoist priest, you are wrong. It's not that I want to be your enemy. It's that you have ulterior motives. You want to take my life and make me break the bounded formation for you. Isn't that right? Tiske. I didn't expect that there would be such a big immortal crystal mine here. Also, who is the Xiantian Celestial Master? What is the Divine Jade Fairy Fetus? My patience is limited. Think carefully before you answer. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He did not pay any attention to the old Taoist whose cultivation was sealed. Instead, he looked around the cave in front of him. The immortal crystals contained a vast amount of energy. There were more than 1,000,000 immortal crystals here. However, Ling Xiao could vaguely sense that there seemed to be some kind of mysterious living being under the immortal crystals. It was absorbing the energy in the immortal crystals, and it contained an obscure and powerful aura. The Xiantian Celestial Master was a celestial master who died tens of millions of years ago. He had founded the Xiantian sect and wanted to join the ranks of the 9 great celestial sects. However, in the end he offended a big shot. Not only was the Xiantian sect destroyed, but he also died. Legend has it that after the Xiantian Celestial Master died, a trace of his true spirit was not destroyed. He was sealed in an immortal crystal mine by a disciple of his sect. He was waiting for time to come back and recover his cultivation and strength. The Divine Jade Fairy Fetus is the Xiantian Celestial Master's physical body that was sealed in the immortal crystal mine. After tens of millions of years of absorbing immortal spiritual chi and origin energy, the Divine Jade Fairy Fetus condensed into a divine fetus. Once the Divine Jade Fairy Fetus is completely formed, the Xiantian Celestial Master might be able to come back to life. The old Taoist priest thought for a while. In the end, he sighed and told the truth. Then how do you know that this is the immortal crystal mine that was sealed by the Xiantian Celestial Master? Ling Xiao asked. I once obtained a treasure map by accident. After that, I killed a descendant of the Black Heaven sect. After searching his soul, I verified it with my treasure map. In the end, I guessed that the immortal crystal mine that sealed the Xiantian Celestial Master was in this mountain range. The old Taoist priest answered. I see. The Divine Jade Fairy Fetus is under these immortal crystals? Ling Xiao mumbled to himself. Whoosh. With a wave of his sleeve, a large number of immortal crystals flew into his sleeve. Ling Xiao did not hold back, and kept all the immortal crystals. The old Taoist priest was heartbroken when he saw this. His eyes were about to spit fire. All of this originally belonged to him. It was Ling Xiao, the bandit, who took away everything that belonged to him. The old Taoist priest resented Ling Xiao even more. After Ling Xiao kept all the immortal crystals, he saw a stone man that was about 10 feet tall below. The stone man was glowing with immortal light, and flowing with a gorgeous luster. It looked crystal clear, and there seemed to be a mysterious figure in it. Ling Xiao could feel that the stone man contained a majestic aura of life. Could it be that the Xiantian Celestial Master really sealed himself in the immortal crystal mine, and came back to life? Ling Xiao thought to himself as his heart trembled slightly. Death was an irreversible process. Even if an emperor had fallen, it was almost impossible to come back to life. However, an emperor could actually seal himself in an immortal crystal mine and come back to life? However, even if he came back thousands of years later, would he still be the same person after being reborn? Ling Xiao was getting more and more curious about the immortal realm. From the old Taoist priest's words, he knew that the Xiantian Celestial Master was not the only one who could do such a thing. There should be many people in the immortal realm who had done similar things. There were even people who had sealed themselves in immortal crystal mines and came back to life. In that case, was the figure in the Divine Jade Fairy Fetus the Xiantian Celestial Master? Chapter 2909. According to what you said, the Divine Jade Fetus is the Xiantian Immortal Master? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he asked the old Taoist. I don't know. The immortal realm is vast and boundless. There are many immortal stones under the ground. The immortal stones are formed by divine Tao and immortal Tao energy. The most precious one is the immortal stone with life energy. It is also called the Divine Jade Fetus. However, No one knows what is in the divine jade fetus. It could be the physical body of the Xiantian immortal master, or it could be some kind of plant, divine beast, or some kind of treasure. The divine jade fetus is extremely precious. If you sell it to a family of stonecutters, you can make a fortune. However, even an immortal master can't tell what is in the divine jade fetus. Only a family of stonecutters can open it and see what is inside. The old Taoist said honestly, "Divine jade fetus? Divine jade fetus?" Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with light. From Lei Ling's memories, he found some memories of the immortal stone and the immortal jade fetus. The immortal stone was like the ancient stones he had encountered in the war god plane. It was a kind of ancient or that had been nurtured in the depths of the earth for countless years. It was either sealed with ancient experts, or sealed with divine weapons, or even elixirs. However, Lei Ling had never played with the immortal stone, so he didn't know much about it. After the old Taoist's introduction, Ling Xiao had a better understanding of the divine jade fetus. In layman's terms, the divine jade fetus was a top-grade immortal stone. In the immortal realm, there was a saying that even immortals couldn't break an inch of jade. The divine jade fetus's outer layer contained divine Tao and immortal Tao energy. It also contained the origin of the great Tao, which blocked any probing. Even an immortal master couldn't find out what treasure was inside. Can't I find out what is inside? Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He secretly used the delusion breaker God Eye. His eyes were covered with a layer of strange light, as he tried to investigate the divine jade fetus. Ling Xiao could feel the mottled origin of the great path on the surface of the divine jade fairy fetus, as well as the aura of the divine path and the immortal path, which blocked his probing. Even with the delusion breaker God Eye technique, he could only vaguely sense that there was a figure within the divine jade fairy fetus, but he could not see clearly. Ling Zhao's eyes shone brightly. He used the 4 secret techniques of chaos, fate, karma, and reincarnation at the same time. The 4 origin techniques gathered in his eyes. In an instant, Ling Zhao's eyes pierced through the stone skin of the divine jade fetus, and he could clearly see what was inside. 2. The woman's eyes were slightly closed, and the aura around her was mysterious and unfathomable. She emitted a resplendent immortal light, and her skin was sparkling like jade. Her appearance was incomparably beautiful, and her black hair was like a waterfall. It was dense and glossy like satin. Xiao was. Ling Xiao could clearly see her breathing. This woman is alive? Is this the Xiantian celestial lord? Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The power of sovereign in his eyes slowly dissipated, revealing a glimmer of light in his eyes. The power of sovereign was indeed terrifying. The power of sovereign could not only unleash powerful attacks, but it was even more powerful than the delusion breaker God Eye. It allowed Ling Xiao to see the situation inside the divine jade fetus. If it wasn't for the fact that Ling Xiao had gathered too little sovereign energy, and could only use it as a trump card, Ling Xiao was confident that he would be able to slay even a god emperor. However, the woman inside the divine jade fetus was very strange. Even Ling Xiao could not tell her condition. She was neither dead nor alive. It was as if she had sealed herself inside. Is the Xiantian celestial lord a woman? Ling Xiao asked the old Taoist. A woman? I've never heard of it. But the Xiantian celestial lord should be a man. You can't see the situation inside the divine jade fetus, can you? The old Taoist asked in surprise. However, he immediately denied this thought. Even the celestial lord could not see through the divine jade fetus. Ling Xiao looked like a mere celestial prime. Naturally, he could not see through the divine jade fetus. I'm just asking. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said non-committally. Buzz. Ling Xiao waved his sleeve, and the divine jade immortal fetus was immediately put away by him. As the divine jade immortal fetus was absorbed into Ling Xiao's bag, the array formation outside actually trembled slightly, and finally dissipated. That formation actually existed with the existence of the divine jade immortal fetus. Now, you can give me a reason not to kill you. Ling Xiao looked at the old Taoist and said with a faint smile. The old Taoist felt his scalp tingle under Ling Xiao's sharp gaze. He hurriedly said to Ling Xiao, My lord, if I'm not wrong, you must have just come out of seclusion, right? I know a lot of secrets about the immortal realm, and I've traveled through the dozens of prefectures in the surrounding area. I'm willing to be your guide and be at your beck and call." After sensing Ling Xiao's terrifying strength, he did not have the slightest intention of resisting. He only wanted to escape from Ling Xiao's hands. "Not enough," Ling Xiao said flatly. "My lord, as long as you don't kill me, I have a secret to tell you." The old Taoist gritted his teeth and said. "Speak," Ling Xiao said. "My lord, a peerless divine jade fetus has appeared in the immortal ancient city. It will be officially auctioned in 3 days' time. There might be an extreme Dao monarch weapon in the divine jade fairy fetus." The old Taoist said seriously. "Extreme Dao emperor weapon?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He did not bring the 4 extreme Dao emperor weapons with him when he came to the immortal realm to prevent his identity from being exposed. However, if he could obtain an extreme Dao emperor weapon in the immortal realm, it would definitely increase his strength greatly. There were many experts in the immortal realm. There were even immortal emperors who were still alive. Ling Xiao had to be careful. "How did you know about this?" Ling Xiao asked the old Taoist. "My lord, it's because I sold the divine jade fetus to the stone-cutting family in the immortal ancient city. Moreover, the extreme Dao emperor weapon might be the profound heaven celestial lord's personal sword." The old Taoist smiled bitterly. His face was filled with regret and bitterness. "Oh." Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He felt that the old Taoist was not simple. "I obtained the divine jade fetus from the descendant of the Black Heaven sect. At that time, I didn't know what was in it. Therefore I sold it easily. However, I found many clues from the treasure map and found some clues in a forbidden place in the Black Heaven sect. Therefore I guessed that the divine jade fetus might be the profound heaven celestial lord's personal sword, the Black Heaven sword." The old Taoist smiled bitterly. Chapter 29:10. When he found out about this, he was filled with regret. Unfortunately, the stone-cutting families in immortal ancient city were all sly and cunning. They didn't want to sell it to him. Instead, they treated it as a supreme treasure that would be auctioned in 3 days. Do the stone-cutting families know the connection between the immortal jade fetus and the immortal master? Ling Xiao said slowly. "I guarantee that they don't know. However, the stone-cutting families have been immersed in the immortal stone for a long time. Although they can't see what's inside, they must know that the treasure inside is extraordinary. That's why they refused to sell it to me. However, my lord, you've got the immortal jade fetus that seems to contain the immortal master. If you can get the immortal jade fetus and get the immortal master's sword, you might be able to get all the immortal master's inheritance. It's a great fortune for you." The old man said with a hint of encouragement in his voice. "Very well. Your life is saved. Now please hand over your primordial spirit and serve me as your master." Ling Xiao said lightly. Although the old man's face was full of unwillingness, he could only smile bitterly and hand over his primordial spirit. Buzz. The old man's primordial spirit was a purple rat. It looked as if it could devour the heavens and the earth. Its whole body emitted immortal light and looked ancient and mysterious. "It's the ancient divine beast, the heaven-devouring rat?" Ling Xiao's eyes showed a hint of surprise when he recognized the old man's original body. The heaven-devouring rat was an ancient divine beast. According to legend, it could devour the heavens and the earth. It loved to devour heavenly treasures, and was extremely sensitive to all kinds of heavenly treasures. It was also called the treasure-seeking rat. The heaven-devouring rat was extinct in the immortal world and the demon world. Ling Xiao didn't expect to see one in the immortal world. The old man's name was Heaven-Devouring Taoist. After merging with the heaven-devouring rat's primordial spirit, its life was in Ling Xiao's hands. Although the old man was a little dejected, he could only accept his fate. "Heaven-devouring Taoist greets my master." The heaven-devouring rat said weakly. "Very well. Now bring me to the immortal ancient city." Ling Xiao said lightly. He came to the immortal realm this time to find out the truth of the immortal realm, and see if he could get some opportunities and fortunes. The immortal ancient city was the core of this prefecture, so he would definitely be able to find out a lot of information. As for the divine jade immortal fetus that the heaven-devouring rat spoke of, it just so happened to be on the way to take a look. Yes, master. The heaven-devouring rat followed Ling Xiao out of the mountain. Rumble. Outside the belly of the mountain, the gorilla, the brown bear, and the elephant were all standing there obediently. They looked at the heaven-devouring rat and waited for his orders. Whoosh! The heaven-devouring rat took out a silver-white bracelet. In an instant, it emitted a bright radiance. The three ferocious beasts roared. After which, they turned into a ray of light and flew into the bracelet, leaving three lifelike imprints on it. This is the beast-taming hoop, a treasure I obtained from the ancient ruins. Later on, I subdued Big Idiot, 2 Idiot, and 3 Idiot and commanded them to work for me. The heaven-devouring rat explained to Ling Xiao. You can keep it for yourself. Ling Xiao said lightly. He had no intention of taking the beast-taming hoop away, which made the heaven-devouring rat heave a sigh of relief. However, Ling Xiao was slightly moved. The heaven-devouring rat was indeed worthy of being called a treasure-seeking rat. He had a lot of treasures on him. Rumble. At this moment, in the distant void, a blazing immortal light bloomed. More than a dozen figures with powerful aura swept across the sky. They were extremely fast and arrived in front of Ling Xiao and the heaven-devouring rat in an instant. They looked down at the two of them with indifferent expressions. Stone-cutting aristocratic family? The heaven-devouring rat's expression changed slightly. Heaven-devouring Taoist, you're really here. Have you found the divine jade immortal fetus of the profound heaven immortal lord? Hand over the divine jade immortal fetus, and I can spare your life. The leader was a middle-aged man in a purple robe. His aura was extremely powerful and dignified. He looked indifferent as he spoke to the heaven-devouring Taoist. His cultivation base was at the immortal venerable realm. The dozen people beside him were all immortal king experts. They were all wearing black armors and emitting a baleful aura. Their eyes were cold and indifferent. They vaguely surrounded Ling Xiao and the heaven-devouring rat. They didn't come with good intentions. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but look at the heaven-devouring rat. How did these people know about the profound heaven immortal lord and the divine jade immortal fetus? What divine jade immortal fetus? I don't know. Immortal venerable Gang. What are you doing? The heaven-devouring rat's expression changed slightly. He had just vowed to Ling Xiao that the stone-cutting aristocratic family didn't know about the divine jade immortal fetus. He didn't expect the stone-cutting aristocratic family to come here directly. Moreover, it was immortal venerable Gang who came here personally. This slap in the face came too quickly. Although the heaven-devouring rat was a little nervous, he felt a little more confident when he saw Ling Xiao's calm expression. His master was an immortal venerable expert after all. Immortal venerable Gang wanted to capture him, the heaven-devouring Taoist. With just these people? Heaven-devouring Taoist, are you still going to play dumb? You have already sold us a divine jade immortal fetus related to the profound heaven immortal lord. It's all thanks to you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have found the clues of the profound heaven immortal lord so easily. Now I'll give you a chance to live. Hand over the divine jade immortal fetus of the profound heaven immortal lord. Then reveal your true form and acknowledge me as your master. Then, I'll spare your dog life. I don't want to repeat myself, so make your choice. Immortal venerable Gang said indifferently. As for Ling Xiao, who was beside the heaven-devouring rat, he didn't even put him in his eyes. After Ling Xiao restrained his aura, he looked just like an immortal. Naturally, he didn't have any sense of existence. A trace of anger flashed in the heaven-devouring rat's eyes. His heart seemed to be burning with anger. He didn't expect that the stone-cutting aristocratic family had already set their sights on the profound heaven immortal lord. The heaven-devouring rat's actions were under the surveillance of the stone-cutting aristocratic family. Today, even if Ling Xiao wasn't here, he would still fall into the hands of the stone-cutting aristocratic family. Just as the heaven-devouring rat was about to say something, Ling Xiao stood out and said indifferently, "Unfortunately, the heaven-devouring rat already has a master." A master? Who is it? I killed his master, so am I not his master now? Don't tell me it's you? Gang sneered. His eyes fell on Ling Xiao with a condescending look, as if he was looking at an ant. Ha ha, Gang said with a sneer. That's right, I'm the master of the heaven-devouring rat, Ling Xiao said seriously. Chapter 29:11. You? Ha. What a joke. Where did this reckless thing come from? How dare you mock me here? San, kill him for me. Venerable Gang laughed. His eyes instantly became extremely cold, and a trace of cold killing intent spread out from his eyes. Yes. Beside Gang, a young man in black armor walked out, holding a black spear. His aura was incomparably cold. His eyes fell on Ling Xiao, revealing a trace of cruelty. Boom. The black spear instantly pierced through the void with extreme speed, directly piercing towards Ling Xiao's glabella. This spear was like a meteor, distorting the void. The 7 kill guards of the stone-cutting family? Master, be careful. The expression of devouring rat changed slightly. That spear made him feel a great threat, but he still gritted his teeth and prepared to block in front of Ling Xiao. Let me do it, Ling Xiao said indifferently, stopping devouring rat. Whoosh. The spear light was as fast as lightning, reaching Ling Xiao's glabella in an instant. However, Ling Xiao only stretched out 2 jade-like fingers. Buzz. The spear buzzed and trembled. It was actually caught by Ling Xiao's 2 fingers, unable to move an inch further. What? The expression of the expert of the 7 kill guards and Gang changed slightly. Boom. Ling Xiao's 2 fingers trembled slightly. In an instant, an unparalleled divine force erupted, causing the expert of the 7 kill guards to tremble violently. His arm instantly lost all feeling. Ling Xiao waved his hand casually, and the black spear seemed to be unable to withstand such a terrifying force. It shattered with a loud bang. Then the fragments of the spear enveloped the expert of the 7 kill guards like a storm. Not good. The expert of the 7 kill guards' expression changed drastically. He instantly wanted to retreat. Puff. The spear fragment's speed was extremely fast, and it was imbued with unparalleled divine power. In an instant, it pierced through his body, turning him into a sieve, and then directly exploded in the void. Boom. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Even his primordial spirit didn't have time to escape, and was instantly destroyed. A celestial king expert had fallen. Damn it. Who are you? Gang's face instantly turned ugly. His eyes were incomparably gloomy as he stared at Ling Xiao. Although Ling Xiao's attack looked light, it was as fast as lightning. With a clench and a fling, he easily killed an immortal king expert. Even senior immortal Gang didn't have time to make a move. This brat was clearly pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. He was actually an immortal venerable expert. You keep saying that you want the heaven-devouring rat to recognize you as its master, and you still ask me who I am? Of course I am the master of the heaven-devouring rat, and you are. Do you want to die? Ling Xiao smiled faintly, his expression extremely calm. Killing a 7 kill guard was like crushing an ant to him. He didn't care about it at all. Ling Xiao did not feel the slightest bit of guilt for slaughtering the powerful beings of the immortal race, let alone the fact that they had offended him. In any case, he would just take it as getting rid of some scourges for the human race. Brat, I don't care who you are. How dare you kill the 7 kill guards of my family? Even if you are a disciple of the 9 great immortal sects, you still deserve to die. Gang's face was incomparably cold, and his eyes were filled with incomparably gloomy killing intent. Master, the Jie family and the Shi family of the family are the top families. When the 2 families join forces, they are not weaker than the 9 great immortal sections. They control all the business of the immortal stones, and obtain a huge amount of resources. There are endless experts in the family. For example, the 7 kill guards have a total of 1,000 immortal kings. The heaven-devouring rat transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao, and introduced the situation of the family. They are not weaker than the 9 great immortal sects? No wonder they are so arrogant. If I kill them all, do you think there will be immortal monarchs coming to kill us? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Sensing the killing intent in Ling Xiao's words, the heaven-devouring rat couldn't help but tremble in his heart. But he still gritted his teeth and said, Master, the people of the family are used to being arrogant and domineering. They are tyrannical in the surrounding dozens of prefectures and monopolize all the business of the immortal stones. If you kill them, we can just leave here and go to other prefectures. I see. No wonder they are so arrogant and overbearing, asking for the immortal jade fetus, and asking you to kneel down and acknowledge them as your master. Today, let me teach them how to behave. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Set up the 7-kill immortal formation kill. Shigang shouted violently. Blazing immortal light bloomed around his body, and a purple saber appeared in his hand. An incomparably fierce saber intent surged out, and the purple saber slashed down towards Ling Xiao in an instant. Kill. 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 7 thunder-like kill words burst out one after another. The remaining dozen or so cultivators of the 7 kill guards came over in an instant, flashing around Ling Xiao. Their bodies merged with the great path, and divine chains of order appeared one after another, setting up an incomparably powerful battle matrix. Their killing intent rose, and their aura was terrifying to the extreme. Although Shigang looked overbearing and arrogant, he was incomparably cautious when he attacked. When Ling Xiao killed one of the 7 kill guards, he could see how powerful Ling Xiao was. Therefore, not only did he take out his weapon, but he also set up the 7-kill immortal formation. The 7-kill immortal formation set up by the dozen immortal kings actually erupted with a power comparable to an immortal venerable, pressing down on Ling Xiao majestically. Master, it's the 7-kill immortal formation. Devouring Rat's heart skipped a beat, and he said worriedly. The power of the 7-kill immortal formation was so terrifying that it made him tremble with fear. He doubted whether Ling Xiao could defeat Shigang and the 7 kill guards. It doesn't matter. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and took a step forward, stepping directly into the 7-kill immortal formation. Hong Long Long. Facing the purple saber of Shigang and the terrifying divine light that intertwined around him. Ling Xiao only threw out a simple punch. Kacha. Ling Xiao's fist bloomed with purple rays of light. In an instant, the lightning blazed, the heavenly punishment surged, and the mighty heavenly might erupted. The 9 layers of purple heaven thunder suddenly erupted. This was the 9 layers of purple heaven art that Lei Ling cultivated. Ling Xiao activated it with the heavenly punishment secret technique. Coupled with his monstrous physique, it instantly erupted with the power of the complete realm. Kong. Venerable Shigang's purple saber looked quite extraordinary. It looked like an ancient immortal weapon, but after being hit by Ling Xiao's punch, it trembled violently. The saber light that filled the sky exploded with a loud bang. Unparalleled divine force directly poured into Shigang's body. Puff. Shigang's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, and was sent flying away with his saber. Bang. Star. Chapter 29:12. Rumble. An incomparably ferocious fist print erupted, and a vast purple chi gushed out from Ling Xiao's body like a sea of lightning, blooming with vast heavenly might. The 7 killing immortals formation, which originally seemed to be overflowing with murderous intent, trembled violently and finally exploded with a loud bang. More than a dozen 7 killing guards vomited blood one after another, and each of them flew out like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Whoosh! Ling Xiao was extremely fast. Like a violet bolt of lightning, he pointed at the air and shot out over a dozen streaks of light in the blink of an eye. They directly pierced the foreheads of the 7 kills and destroyed their souls. The souls of the 7 killing guards were completely scattered. Venerable Shigang's eyes were filled with incomparable horror, but before he could do anything, Ling Xiao appeared in front of him, grabbed his neck with one hand, and lifted him up. Rumble! Purple lightning crackled and enveloped Venerable Shigang like divine chains of order, completely sealing his cultivation base. How do you want to die? Ling Xiao smiled slightly at Venerable Shigang. However, in the eyes of Venerable Shigang, his smile was simply like a demon, causing him to tremble all over. His face instantly turned ashen, and an incomparable look of despair appeared on his face. They were both immortal venerables, so how could Ling Xiao be so strong? Venerable Shigang couldn't figure it out at all. However, The only thing he understood was that he had kicked an iron plate today. Let me go, and I promise that the Sure family won't find trouble with you. But if you kill me, even if you escape to the ends of the earth, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of my Sure family. Although you're strong, can you escape the pursuit of an immortal monarch? Although Venerable Shurgang was extremely angry, he calmed down at this moment and looked at Ling Xiao seriously. You still dare to threaten me when you're about to die? Immortal monarch? It's not like I haven't killed one before. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Master, the Sure family is very powerful, and Venerable Shurgang is an elder of the Sure family. The death of a few 7 killing guards won't have much impact, but if Venerable Shurgang dies, the Sure family will definitely send immortal monarchs to investigate. Why don't we imprison Shurgang now and don't kill him first? Heaven-devouring rat transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. All right, Ling Xiao nodded. He was preparing to head to the immortal ancient city. If he killed Shurgang, the Sure family would be alerted. Ling Xiao did not care about Shurgang's threat. He immediately sealed Shurgang's cultivation and imprisoned him in the small world within his body. Boom. With a thought, a ball of sky-devouring fire appeared in Ling Xiao's palm. It emitted a dazzling 9-colored celestial light like a 9-colored celestial lotus fire. It instantly enveloped the area within 100 miles. The corpses of the 7 kill guards were instantly reduced to ashes. Let's go. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. If the Sure clan sensed the aura of the 9-colored immortal lotus fire, their expressions would definitely be very interesting, right? Although Ling Xiao did not know the identity of the Celestial Highness, he was sure that the Celestial Highness had an extremely high status in the celestial world. It was a good opportunity to let them fight each other. Master, where are we going? The heaven-devouring rat asked ingratiatingly. His respect for Ling Xiao grew. Ling Xiao's strength was so strong that it shocked him greatly. He secretly guessed Ling Xiao's identity. Could it be an expert from the 9 great immortal sects? Immortal Ancient City. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Immortal Ancient City? Master, aren't we walking right into a trap? If the Sure clan knows that we killed the 7 kill guards, they won't let us go. The heaven-devouring rat exclaimed with a bitter look on his face. The Sure clan's strength was unfathomable. The Immortal Ancient City was their base camp. Who knew how many immortal monarchs were guarding it? They were simply walking right into a trap. What do you know? The most dangerous place is also the safest place. Don't worry, if the Sure clan dares to attack us, we'll turn the Immortal Ancient City upside down. Ling Xiao sneered. The rat cried bitterly in his heart, but he had no choice since he had such an audacious master. He could only follow Ling Xiao nervously in the direction of the Immortal Ancient City. The 7 kill guards who followed Elder Shurgang to hunt down Shurtian Daoist are all dead. In the Immortal Ancient City, an expert from the Sure clan said slowly. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Who dares to attack the 7 kill guards of the Sure clan? You're courting death. Did Elder Shurgang go after Shurtian Daoist? Let the experts in the clan take action. As long as we catch Shurtian Daoist, we'll be able to find the culprit. Shurtian Daoist definitely doesn't have the guts or the strength to do so. Is it the Xie clan? How dare you attack the Sure clan? You deserve to die. Investigate. We must find the culprit. In the Sure clan, several powerful divine thoughts intertwined with each other, containing an incomparably terrifying aura. Swoosh! 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 Soon, several powerful figures swept across the sky and flew out of the Immortal Ancient City. The people in the Immortal Ancient City were discussing and guessing what had happened to the Sure clan. Master, that's the Immortal Ancient City. Ling Xiao and the heaven-devouring rat stood in the air and looked at the city in the sky in the distance. Their eyes were filled with amazement. In front of them, it was as if a huge sacred mountain had been cut in half. The Immortal Ancient City was built in the clouds tens of thousands of feet above. It was like a dormant primordial beast, exuding an ancient and boundless aura. The Immortal Ancient City towered into the clouds, surrounded by clouds and mist. It was shrouded in celestial light and mysterious laws. From afar, it looked like a palace of the Celestial Emperor. It was not that Ling Xiao had never seen a city as majestic as the Immortal Ancient City. However, the immortal ancient city exuded a unique aura. It was an ancient fluctuation that had experienced the vicissitudes of time, as if it had experienced countless years of immortality. This was an extremely ancient city, even more ancient than any city Ling Xiao had ever seen. Immortal ancient city? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of light as he softly muttered to himself. At this moment, he had already restrained his aura. He still looked like an immortal, and was not eye-catching at all. The heaven-devouring rat had also changed his appearance. He had turned into an old man in a black robe. His face was full of wrinkles and his appearance was old. He followed behind Ling Xiao like an old servant. Originally, Ling Xiao planned to hide the heaven-devouring rat's aura, but he did not expect this guy to have such a superb transformation technique. Not only did his appearance change, but even his aura had changed. The heaven-devouring rat was also afraid that the Shi clan would cause trouble for him, so he changed his appearance. This was good. It could save him a lot of trouble. Let's enter the city. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and flew towards the immortal ancient city. End of chapter. Chapter 29:13. There are two big families in the immortal ancient city, the Jie family and the Shi family. They have stone-cutting skills, and only they can cut the immortal stones intact. Therefore, they monopolize the stone-cutting business in the surrounding dozens of prefectures. In the immortal ancient city, there are thousands of large and small stone workshops and stone pavilions. However, each of them has a share of the Jie family and the Shi family, and there are also stone-cutting masters from these two families. The Jie family is more low-key, while the Shi family is more overbearing. However, the strength of these two families is extremely powerful and unfathomable. Relying on the stone-cutting business, they have found countless ancient treasures in the immortal stones, and obtained many powerful resources. These two families have vaguely shown signs of catching up with the 9 major immortal sects. The immortal ancient city is also the center of the surrounding dozens of prefectures. Every day, many big shots in the immortal realm choose to come to the immortal ancient city to gamble on stones. Master, the immortal jade fetus I sold to the Shi family already knows that it is related to the Xiantian immortal master. I am afraid that they will not auction it. This time, we are likely to return empty-handed. The rat of heaven devouring followed Ling Xiao into the immortal ancient city, and at the same time, introduced the situation to Ling Xiao. Return empty-handed? Not necessarily. Ling Xiao said with a smile. After passing through the hundreds of feet high city gate of the immortal ancient city, and at the same time, passing through the immortal ancient city's city defense immortal boundary, they finally entered the inner part of the city. As soon as they entered the immortal ancient city, Ling Xiao felt as if he had entered a mortal city. In front of him was an incomparably lively scene. On both sides of the wide street, there were all kinds of immortal stones. The stall owners and hawkers were shouting with all their might. The immortal stones of Tianyuan Mountain once contained supreme-grade immortal medicine. Now they are selling at a discount. You only need 10 immortal crystals to exchange for 1 immortal stone. Come and see. The immortal stones of the Longhu mine will definitely contain immortal iron and divine gold. 30 immortal crystals for 1. The immortal jade fetus personally collected by the Chongyang immortal master. There is only 1 piece. Come and see. Only 1,000 immortal crystals. Half of the immortal stone has already revealed the fragrance of the immortal medicine. Only 200 immortal crystals. Ling Xiao could see that the surrounding stall owners and peddlers did not have high cultivations. Most of them were immortals or great immortals. There were even cultivators who had yet to become immortals. The stall was filled with all kinds of strangely shaped immortal stones. They were surrounded by immortal light and looked quite strange. However, it was hard to tell whether they were real or fake. Master, in the entire immortal ancient city, other than the 2 huge palaces in the depths, which are the territories of the Jie family and the Shi family, there are also stone shops, restaurants, and inns. The celestial stones sold by these small stalls are all of inferior quality. Most of them are used to swindle those who don't know the trade. If you are interested, I know a few good gem shops. We can go and have a look. Seeing that Ling Xiao seemed to be interested in those small stalls, the sky-devouring rat hurriedly said eagerly. The charm of the immortal stone lay in the fact that no one knew what was inside. Only by cutting the stone could one see if there was any treasure inside. Therefore, there was a saying that one blade could reach heaven, and one blade could reach hell. The big shots in the immortal world, especially the young supreme talents, were very interested in it. They did not hesitate to spend a lot of money to gamble on the stone in the immortal ancient city. Of course, there were people who obtained treasures from the immortal stone, which caused a sensation in the city. However, most of them lost their money. Relying on the popularity of the immortal stone business, the Jie family and the Shi family made a lot of money. It's okay. Let me take a look first. A gleam of light flashed through Ling Xiao's eyes. He walked towards a stall and picked up an immortal rock. The stall owner was an elder with a goatee. His eyes darted around, making him look like a thief. When he saw a customer enter, his eyes lit up as he grinned, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. Esteemed customer, you have good eyesight. This is an old mine in the God Burial Abyss. You know about the God Burial Abyss, right? That is where the Shi family made their fortune. The immortal stone that the Shi family dug out from the God Burial Abyss was used to unlock the ancient Emperor Sutra and the Supreme Emperor weapon. It established the Shi family's foundation. If you are interested in this immortal stone, I will reluctantly part with it. I will only charge you 10,000 immortal crystals. God Burial Abyss? You really dare to say that? The God Burial Abyss is a forbidden area. Although there are immortal stones there, the Shi family had a slim chance of survival when they obtained some back then. With your immortal cultivation, you dare to go to the God Burial Abyss to mine? Ling Xiao did not speak. The heaven-devouring rat could not help but laugh coldly. Hee hee, although the God Burial Abyss is a forbidden area and my cultivation is not strong, I can still pick up a few pieces of immortal stones in the periphery, right? This is something that I brought back after a narrow escape. It is definitely an immortal stone from the God Burial Abyss. The old man with the goatee was not angry. Instead, he chuckled. Ling Xiao ignored him. He held the immortal stone in his hand and closed his eyes. Just now, the God clan mark in Ling Xiao's primordial spirit trembled, and the source was this immortal stone. This immortal stone looked black, and it emitted a sparkling immortal light. There were cracks on it, and it looked very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. However, to be able to make the God clan mark tremble, Ling Xiao still thought highly of it. He had obtained the God clan mark from the chaotic ancient land. Legend had it that it contained the destiny of the God clan. However, after Ling Xiao left the chaotic ancient land, the God clan mark had become completely silent. When Ling Xiao held the immortal stone, the God clan mark trembled even more intensely. It was as if there was something in this immortal stone that the God clan mark yearned for. Buzz! Ling Xiao opened his slightly closed eyes, and a strange light shot out. The power of the sovereign lingered in his eyes, allowing him to see through this immortal stone in an instant. Inside the immortal stone, there was a broken ceramic piece that emitted an aura similar to the God clan mark. Is the source of this ceramic piece? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He touched the other immortal stones on the stall, and realized that the other immortal stones did not cause the God clan mark to react. Only this immortal stone with a ceramic piece caused the God clan mark to tremble. I want this immortal stone. 500 immortal crystals. Ling Xiao looked at the old man with the goatee and said indifferently, 500 immortal crystals? No way. This is an old mine in the God Burial Abyss. 10,000 immortal crystals is already considered cheap. How about this? Since we are fated to meet today, I'll give you a discount. I'll sell it to you for 5,000 immortal crystals. The old man with the goatee said with a smile. 500 immortal crystals. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Young man, why are you so stubborn? This is an old mine in the God Burial Abyss. I risked my life to bring it back. I'm afraid of you. Take away 2,000 immortal crystals. The old man with the goatee said incessantly. 500 immortal crystals. The old man with the goatee spat. When it came to the price, he became extremely shrewd. However, when he saw that Ling Xiao was still willing to pay 500 immortal crystals, the old man with the goatee could only agree with a pained expression. Chapter 29:14. 500 immortal crystals to buy the immortal stones from the God Burial Abyss Old Mine. You've made a huge profit, but I've made a huge loss. The old man with the goatee mumbled as he reluctantly handed the immortal stone to Ling Xiao. With this lousy immortal stone, I think you've already made a fortune with just one immortal crystal. You still think that 500 immortal crystals are too little? If you don't want to, then forget it. We won't buy it. The heaven-devouring rat said in annoyance. He really could not tell what was so special about the immortal stone that Ling Xiao had chosen. As for the immortal stone in the God Burial Abyss, that was even more nonsense. He did not believe it at all. How should I address you? Ling Xiao gave the old man 500 immortal crystals, then put the immortal stone into his pouch and smiled at him. Although this old man with a goatee only looked like an immortal, Ling Xiao instinctively felt that he was not simple. Perhaps he had really obtained this strange immortal stone from the God Burial Abyss. Ling Xiao learned from the heaven-devouring rat that the God Burial Abyss was a forbidden area in the immortal world. Legend had it that countless ancient fiend gods were buried there, and countless immortal stones were nurtured there. Although it was filled with danger, the quality of the immortal stones was extremely high. For example, the Sher clan had once obtained the precious immortal stone from the God Burial Abyss. From it, they had obtained the ancient Imperial Sutra and the extreme Tao Emperor weapon. This had shaken the entire immortal world and established the Sher clan's foundation. Countless people had headed to the God Burial Abyss to mine the immortal stone. Therefore, the immortal stones in the God Burial Abyss had become synonymous with supreme-grade immortal stones. However, the God Burial Abyss was fraught with danger. It was very difficult for ordinary people to mine immortal stones from the God Burial Abyss. Instead, they would suffer heavy casualties. Most of the immortal stones in the God Burial Abyss on the market were fake. I am Taoist Divine Void. I think you're not bad, so I'll give you a piece of news. If you want to open a stone, it's best to look for the Xie family's stone cutter. Don't look for the Sher family's stone cutter. The Sher family is used to being overbearing. If there's really something good inside, they might do something like forcing people to buy and sell. The old man with the goatee smiled. Do I need you to tell me that? Heaven-devouring rat rolled his eyes. This Taoist divine void was speaking nonsense. In the entire ancient immortal city, who didn't know just how overbearing the Sher family was? Thank you, elder. Ling Xiao nodded and said. He really wanted to find a stonecutter to open the immortal stone in his hand. That piece of ceramic could cause the God clan seal to react, which made Ling Xiao attach great importance to it. On both sides of the street, there were stone-cutting pavilions. Ling Xiao and the sky-devouring rat did not hesitate, and directly chose the Jia family's stone-cutting pavilion. The business in the stone-cutting pavilion was very hot. The stone-cutting masters were holding immortal stones, and carefully breaking the stone skin. There were many people around watching. The stone-cutting process was also the most exciting process. From time to time, there would be people screaming or sighing. However, the cost of stone cutting was not low. Ordinary immortal stones required at least one immortal crystal. As for high-quality immortal stones, even divine jade immortal fetus, the cost of stone cutting could reach hundreds, or even tens of thousands of immortal crystals. Stone cutting is a technical job that involves the chaotic great Tao of heaven and earth contained in the immortal stone. Only the Jia family and the Sher family can completely cut the stone. The heaven-devouring rat sighed, and said enviously. Not only the heaven-devouring rat, who would not be envious of the Jia family and the Sher family. However, the stone-cutting technique of the Jia family and the Sher family was also known as the stone-cutting heavenly scripture. Only the members of the Jia family and the Sher family could cultivate it. Only they could cut the stone without damaging the treasures in the immortal stone. The immortal stone was very strange. The stone skin on the outside was intertwined with divine Tao Qi and immortal Tao Qi. It also contained chaotic great Tao precepts. If the stone was forcefully cut, the result would only be that the treasures in the immortal stone would be completely destroyed. The bloodline of the Jia family's stonecutter is somewhat special. Ling Zhao's eyes flickered slightly. He looked at the stonecutter of the Jia family who was cutting the stone. His hands were like moving clouds and flowing water. The stone skin was constantly turned into powder and fell down. It was like a butcher dismembering an ox. He cleverly cut the stone skin of the immortal stone following the texture of the immortal stone. That pair of hands was crystal clear like jade. However, they were extremely nimble and contained a mysterious aura fluctuation. It's the aura of the celestial secret skill and the divine secret skill? Could it be that they are relying on these two secret skills to cut the stone? But there are some differences. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He could clearly sense the aura of these two secret skills from the stonecutter of the Jie family. The Jie family and the Shi family both had the stonecutter scripture, but there were slight differences. However, their stonecutter scripture could only be cultivated by the people of the two families. Outsiders could not learn the stonecutter scripture at all. In the end, the stonecutter of the Jie family completely cut open the immortal stone. However, it was completely empty. There were no treasures at all. This attracted a lot of sighs. How can there be nothing? This immortal stone cost me 10,000 immortal crystals. A middle-aged fat man in brocade robes screamed in pain. His face was full of pain. Cut the stone. 100 immortal crystals. The stonecutter of the Jie family said faintly. Although the fat man in brocade robes was very depressed, he did not dare to renege on the stonecutter fee of the Jie family. He could only obediently take out 100 immortal crystals and leave dejectedly. Is there anyone else who wants to cut the stone? The stonecutter of the Jie family asked faintly after receiving the immortal crystals. I want to cut the stone. Ling Xiao walked out and said calmly as he took out the immortal stone from his bosom. This immortal stone is of poor quality. There are many cracks on it. These cracks are called spirit-dispersing inscriptions. Even if there are treasures in it, they are worthless. Are you sure you want to cut the stone? The stonecutter of the Jie family looked at the immortal stone in Ling Xiao's hand and frowned. That's right. Ling Xiao nodded and said, Okay, cut the stone. 10 immortal crystals. The stonecutter said faintly. Then he took the immortal stone in Ling Xiao's hand and began to cut the stone. Buzz. His hands were crystal clear like jade. They were incomparably flexible and filled with mysterious immortal light. He gently stroked the immortal stone as if there was a blade on his palm. The immortal stone trembled slightly, and then the stone layer began to fall off. A strange look appeared in Ling Xiao's eyes. He vaguely sensed that the bloodline in the stonecutter's body was emitting an aura similar to the divine clan mark. Is this the reason why they can cut the stone? Or are they from the divine clan? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and a sharp light appeared in his eyes. Gotcha. Soon, the stone layer of the immortal stone in the hands of the stonecutter completely fell off. Immortal light filled the air and emitted an ancient aura fluctuation. A treasure has been cut out. Someone exclaimed. Suddenly, everyone's eyes looked over and landed on the immortal stone in the hands of the stonecutter. The immortal stone cracked in the middle, and a piece of black ceramic appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Top. Chapter 29:15. The black ceramic piece looked very ordinary, but it exuded an ancient aura of the divine path, dense with the vicissitudes of time. A ceramic piece? It seems that this fairy stone is broken. Someone sighed, his eyes full of regret. No one found anything special about the ceramic piece, so they all thought that this fairy stone was broken. The stonecutter of the Xie family was originally indifferent, but when he saw the ceramic piece in the fairy stone, his body suddenly trembled, and his eyes revealed a trace of incomparable shock. It can actually make the God Clan mark react. This ceramic piece is not simple. Ling Xiao thought to himself. He reached out to grab the ceramic piece, wanting to study it carefully. As for whether it was broken like what others said, Ling Xiao did not care. Wait. This piece of ceramic. This young master wants it. At this moment, an arrogant voice sounded. Whoosh. At the same time, there was a piercing sound, and a piece of fairy stone was extremely fast, smashing towards Ling Xiao's palm. If he insisted on taking the ceramic piece, he would definitely be hit by that piece of fairy stone. It was obvious that the person who threw the fairy stone did not want Ling Xiao to take the ceramic piece. Such rude behavior made Ling Xiao's eyes involuntarily turn cold. Bang! Ling Xiao did not dodge and continued to grab the ceramic piece. When that piece of fairy stone came into contact with Ling Xiao's arm, a purple thunderbolt instantly bloomed, directly smashing that piece of fairy stone into powder. And the ceramic piece was also in the palm of Ling Xiao's hand. "It's the third young master of the Shi family, Shi Tianying," someone exclaimed, and suddenly a trace of reverence appeared in his eyes. The crowd in the distance automatically dispersed, and a young man in a purple robe stepped forward, his expression arrogant and his eyes incomparably cold. Beside him, there was a woman in a green dress, looking gentle and elegant like a lily, exuding an incomparably pure aura. Especially those pair of eyes, there was not a trace of flaw, bright and dazzling. Shi Tianying actually took a fancy to that ceramic piece. Could it be that the ceramic piece is some kind of treasure? This kid actually did not give face to Shi Tianying. He's in big trouble now. That's right. Who dares not give face to the third young master of the Shi family? Even the Xie family had to be courteous to him. However, who was the fairy beside Shi Tianying? It's too beautiful. I'm not sure, but with such a noble temperament, he must be from a big sect or clan. Everyone was discussing amongst themselves. Many of them were looking at Ling Xiao with a gloating expression. From their point of view, Ling Xiao had turned a deaf ear to Shi Tianying's words. He had directly shattered the immortal stone that Shi Tianying had thrown at him, and took away the ceramic shard without a care. He was clearly not giving Shi Tianying any face. "Brat, I've already said that this piece of ceramic is mine. Are you deaf?" Shi Tianying stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. Her triangular eyes were like those of a poisonous snake, flashing with a cold light. Her voice was extremely cold, as if she was reprimanding someone. "This piece of ceramic was cut out from my immortal stone. What does it have to do with you? As for whether or not I'm deaf, everyone should have seen it. If you didn't see it, then I can only say that your dog eyes are blind." Ling Xiao's lips curled into a faint smile as he spoke slowly. Once Ling Xiao's words came out, everyone looked at each other in dismay. They looked at Ling Xiao as if they were looking at a dead person. In the entire immortal ancient city, who would dare to speak to Shi Tianying in such a manner? Ling Xiao's cultivation did not seem high, but he was so audacious that he did not put the third young master of the Shi family in his eyes. He was simply tired of living. At this moment, although this was the stone-cutting pavilion of the Xie family, there was no one of importance in the Xie family. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the stone-cutting master or the shopkeeper, all of them remained silent. Shi Tianying's eyes revealed a trace of coldness and killing intent. He stared at Ling Xiao and said, "Brat, I originally intended to buy this ceramic shard with immortal crystals, but I didn't expect you to be so reckless. Kneel down and hand over the ceramic shard with both hands. Slap yourself 100 times, and I can only cripple your cultivation and spare your dog life." Shi Tianying was really angry. In particular, Ling Xiao's indifferent and calm expression did not have the slightest trace of fear. His gaze was more like an eagle looking down at an ant from the 9 heavens. This made Shi Tianying extremely unhappy, and felt that it was a great provocation. The Xie family and the Shi family were the local tyrants in the immortal ancient city. Even the people from the 9 great immortal sects had to be respectful to them. Since when did someone dare to provoke the third young master of the Shi family? Behind Shi Tianying, there were 2 old men with unfathomable auras. They were both immortal venerables. Their expressions were incomparably cold, and their auras locked onto Ling Xiao. It was as if they were waiting for Shi Tianying's order to take Ling Xiao down. "Master, you are a little impulsive. Shi Tianying is used to being arrogant and domineering. It's just a ceramic shard. It's nothing much to give it to him. If we make a scene here, we will be the ones to suffer." The sky-devouring rat complained incessantly in his heart. He secretly transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao, full of worry. This was the immortal ancient city. If they offended the Shi family, they might not even be able to escape. When the time came, they would be like turtles in a jar. Although the sky-devouring rat knew that Ling Xiao was powerful, he did not think that he could contend against the Shi family. Are the people of the Shi family so arrogant and domineering? After failing to buy and sell, they want to kill people here? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His expression was still very calm, but his eyes began to turn cold. How many years had it been? Ling Xiao had rarely met such fools. He did not expect to meet such people in the immortal world. A hedonistic son who relied on his family's background to do as he pleased was just an ant that could be destroyed at any time in Ling Xiao's eyes. Although he did not want to cause trouble, he was not afraid if trouble really came. Calm down, both of you. This young master, it was Tianying who offended you. I apologize to you on his behalf. However, can you sell that ceramic shard to me? No matter how many immortal crystals it is. The beautiful eyes of the woman beside Shi Tianying flashed as she opened her mouth to speak. Her expression was very calm. Although she said sorry, she did not have the slightest intention of apologizing. Her voice was ethereal and cold, as if there were no fluctuations in her emotions. She looked calmly at Ling Xiao. Sister, why go through so much trouble? This brat refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If you want the ceramic shard, I will just kill this brat directly. Shi Tianying said with some dissatisfaction. However, after being glanced at by the woman in green, Shi Tianying immediately shrunk his head and stopped talking. However, his eyes were still full of threat when he looked at Ling Xiao. Chapter 29:16. Could this be the second daughter of the Shi family, Shi Qingyi? Someone's eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. He couldn't help but exclaim softly, Shi Qingyi? The fairy Qingyi who entered the Alcade Immortal sect at a very young age? Hiss, this is the peerless genius of the Alcade Immortal sect. She actually came back from the Alcade Immortal sect? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, as if they had thought of something. Their eyes were filled with shock. The Shi family had three great geniuses, Shi Wuji, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianying. Shi Wuji was now the young master of the Shi family. He was a famous genius in the entire immortal realm, and was admired by countless people. Xie Wushuang of the Xie family was also known as the peerless genius of the immortal ancient city. Although Shi Qingyi entered the Alcade Immortal sect at a very young age, the Alcade Immortal sect was one of the 9 great immortal sects. Shi Qingyi was a genius of the Alcade Immortal sect, and was also known as Fairy Qingyi, one of the paintings of the 9 immortals. Compared to Shi Wuji and Shi Qingyi, Shi Tianying's talent was slightly inferior. However, Shi Tianying had also cultivated to the immortal king realm. The Shi family had 3 heroes, but the Xie family only had Xie Wushuang. Naturally, the Shi family was now very powerful, and showed signs of overshadowing the Xie family. Shi Qingyi returned to the immortal ancient city this time for the stone-cutting ceremony that is held once every 10,000 years, right? Someone guessed softly. That should be right. The stone-cutting ceremony determines the control of the immortal ancient city. Although the immortal ancient city belongs to the Xie family and the Shi family in name, the guardian array is in the hands of the Shi family. This is why the Shi family is in the limelight. The Shi family is even more determined to win the stone-cutting ceremony this time. They want to seize control of the immortal ancient city for the next 10,000 years. Shi Qingyi should be back to help. Someone explained. Everyone was more and more in awe of Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. The immortal ancient city was about to enter an eventful period again. Sorry, I want to keep this ceramic piece. I'm not selling it. Ling Xiao said lightly. 1 million immortal crystals. If you agree, I can buy it for 1 million immortal crystals. Shi Qingyi said calmly. 1 million immortal crystals? Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. 1 million immortal crystals was enough to buy those precious divine jades and immortal fetuses. Ling Xiao had only spent 500 immortal crystals to buy this immortal stone, and he had earned 2,000 times the profit. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. Even the heaven-devouring rat was stunned. My goodness, master has good taste. I'm a heaven-devouring rat. Why didn't I realize that this immortal stone is so precious? The heaven-devouring rat's eyes were filled with disbelief. He was known as the treasure-seeking mouse, and he had an extraordinary perception of immortal stones. However, he realized that he had made a mistake this time. Master, with 1 million immortal crystals, we can buy the divine jade immortal fetus. If that piece of ceramic is useless, then sell it. I don't want to offend the Shi family. The heaven-devouring rat whispered to Ling Xiao. Not for sale, Ling Xiao said calmly to Shi Qingyi, ignoring the heaven-devouring rat. 5 million immortal crystals. Shi Qingyi frowned and yelled out another high price. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They really wanted to know what kind of treasure that ceramic piece was. It was actually worth 5 million immortal crystals? This was especially true for those who had said that the ceramic pieces were trash. They could feel their cheeks burning as they slapped themselves on the face. Miss Shi, I said, not for sale. Not to mention 5 million immortal crystals. Even if it was 50 million immortal crystals, I still wouldn't sell it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, but his expression was extremely determined. Young master, believe me, that piece of ceramic is completely useless in your hands. I still hope that you will sell it to me. This way, you can gain the friendship of the Shi family. Isn't that killing two birds with one stone? Shi Qingyi's expression turned slightly cold. Her patience was almost worn out. She didn't expect Ling Xiao to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. He didn't give her any face at all. However, that ceramic piece was incomparably important. She had to take it before the Jie family found out. Shi Qingyi was an extremely arrogant person. Although she looked calm and gentle, there were only a few people in the immortal realm who could catch her eye. If this wasn't the stone-cutting pavilion of the Jie family, she wouldn't have bid again and again. Are you threatening me, Miss Shi? Unfortunately, the friendship of the Shi family is useless to me, and I hate being threatened the most. I said I'm not selling this ceramic piece, so I'm not selling it. Ling Xiao said coldly and turned to leave the stone-cutting pavilion of the Jie family. You want to leave? Boy, if you don't leave the ceramic piece behind today, don't even think about going anywhere. Since you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, don't blame me for being impolite. Shi Tianying's eyes turned cold, revealing a trace of ferocity. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two celestial primes behind him flashed, their bodies filled with immortal Dao aura. Their eyes were cold, and in an instant, they blocked Ling Xiao's path of retreat. This time, even Shi Qingyi was silent and didn't stop them. For the ceramic piece, she wouldn't hesitate to use force. What? Does the Shi family really intend to force a sale? Ling Xiao said faintly with a trace of mockery at the corner of his mouth. His eyes seemed to be filled with purple lightning, making him exude a dignified and ancient aura. The rat of heaven devouring was trembling with fear, and he complained incessantly in his heart. If he really fought with the Shi family, it would be troublesome. At that time, if his and Ling Xiao's identities were exposed, he wouldn't be able to escape. He could only be captured by the Shi family like a turtle in a jar. In the immortal ancient city, the Shi family had more than one immortal master experts in charge. You dare to fight in the stone-cutting pavilion of the Jie family? The Shi family is as arrogant as ever. At this moment, a crisp female voice rang out. Xie Wushuang. After hearing the voice, Shi Qingyi's expression changed slightly, and she stared at a figure in the distance. The crowd slowly parted, and a valiant figure walked over. It was a woman in armor. The tight soft armor outlined her perfect figure at a glance. She was tall and slender, and her whole body emitted an indescribable heroic aura. Her face was incomparably beautiful, and her skin was as white as jade. It was a combination of charm and heroic aura, especially her pair of eyebrows that were like divine swords, which added a bit of sharpness to her gentle beauty. This was a very unique woman with a heroic aura, like the brightest star in the night sky. As soon as she appeared in the stone-cutting pavilion, she immediately became the focus of everyone. Chapter 29:17. Even Shi Qingyi was overshadowed by this woman. Xie family Xie Wushuang. A name appeared in everyone's mind, and their eyes involuntarily revealed a look of awe. They did not expect that an ordinary stone-cutting session would attract Shi Tianying and Shi Qingyi. Now, it even attracted the Xie family's peerless genius, one of the two kings of the immortal ancient city, Xie Wushuang. Everyone noticed that Ling Xiao, who caused this incident, was standing there calmly, as if he was a fool without the slightest bit of apprehension or fear. They did not know if Ling Xiao was fearless because of his ignorance, or if he had something to rely on. After seeing Xie Wushuang, even the calm and gentle Shi Qingyi revealed a hint of jealousy in her eyes. Shi Tianying concealed the passion in her eyes. Every time she saw Xie Wushuang's hot figure, Shi Tianying felt that she could not control herself. This was an extremely perfect woman, making all the men in the world feel ashamed of their inferiority. Shi Qingyi, Shi Tianying, you came to my Xie family's stone-cutting pavilion to cause trouble. Do you really think my Xie family is easy to bully? Xie Wushuang stood in front of Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying. She was extremely tall, taller than Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying by a head. Unconsciously, she had a feeling of superiority, and her voice was indifferent. Xie Wushuang, so what if it's the Xie family's stone-cutting pavilion? This brat spoke rudely to me and my sister. What's wrong with us teaching him a lesson? Don't be a busybody here, Shi Tianying said, trying to put on a brave front. Shi Qingyi stopped Shi Tianying and looked at Xie Wushuang with a smile. Sister Wushuang, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. We just want to make a deal with this young master. Why would we fight in the Xie family's stone-cutting pavilion? Is it just a simple deal? 5 million immortal crystals, you're really generous. You want to buy the divine cauldron fragment with a mere 5 million immortal crystals? Xie Wushuang smiled faintly with a hint of mockery in her eyes. Divine cauldron fragment? What's that? Everyone's eyes were filled with confusion. Even Ling Zhao's heart could not help but tremble. However, the heaven-devouring rat's body trembled as if it had thought of something. Its eyes revealed incomparable excitement and disbelief. Master, no wonder that little bitch Shi Qingyi would spend 5 million spiritual crystal to buy a ceramic piece. So it's actually a fragment of a divine cauldron? We're rich. The heaven-devouring rat excitedly transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. What is the divine cauldron fragment? Master, the divine cauldron is also known as the cauldron of creation. It's the celestial race's treasure of providence. However, the cauldron of creation had been shattered into countless pieces during the primordial antiquity era. After so many years, a few people obtained the fragments of the divine cauldron. Some comprehended supreme divine arts from it, and some comprehended the grand Tao of the heaven and earth from it. Some had their cultivation soar by leaps and bounds, and they forged a supreme Tao foundation. The divine cauldron fragment was a treasure that represented an unparalleled opportunity. Legend had it that if one could gather all the fragments of the divine cauldron and recreate the cauldron of creation, they would be able to obtain the blessings of the divine clan, and even become an emperor. In the immortal world, every time a fragment of the divine cauldron appeared, it would cause countless experts to fight over it. Ordinary people might not know, but the Jie clan and the Shi clan definitely knew. No wonder that little bitch Shi Qingyi was willing to pay 500 spiritual crystal. Master, you're right. Even 50 million or 500 million spiritual crystal wouldn't be enough. The Shi clan is really evil. They actually want to cheat you of your treasure. They deserve to die. The heaven-devouring rat transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao, extremely agitated. Ling Xiao was a little speechless. The heaven-devouring rat was simply a fence-sitter. This fellow had probably forgotten who had just said to sell the ceramic piece to Shi Qingyi to avoid offending the Shi clan. However, the cauldron of creation of the divine clan still made Ling Zhao's heart skip a beat. What was the relationship between the cauldron of creation and the divine clan seal? The fragment of the cauldron of creation could cause the divine clan seal to tremble. It could be seen that the two had a very deep relationship. Jie Wushuang, don't tell me that you don't want the fragment of the divine cauldron. This kid's cultivation is weak. If he has the fragment of the divine cauldron, it will only cause trouble. I'm helping him. Shi Qingyi's eyes turned cold, but her heart couldn't help but sink. As expected, Jie Wushuang had found out. That's right. I also want the fragment of the divine cauldron. However, the Jie clan has always done things in an upright manner. We have never used our power to bully others, and we will never do things like force a sale. The two of you, since this young master is unwilling to sell it to you, please leave. Jie Wushuang said plainly. Very well. Jie Wushuang, I hope that you can still be so unyielding during the stone cracking ceremony. Let's go. Shi Qingyi's expression changed slightly as she glanced at Jie Wushuang and said coldly. Don't worry about it. Jie Wushuang said plainly. Shi Qingyi left with Shi Tianying. Since Jie Wushuang had made a move, it was impossible for them to obtain the fragment of the divine cauldron from Ling Xiao. Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying's expressions didn't look too good, especially Shi Tianying. Before she left, she glared fiercely at Ling Xiao. Her eyes were filled with warning and threat. However, Ling Xiao ignored her. Everyone tactfully dispersed. Ling Xiao originally wanted to leave the stone-cracking pavilion with the heaven-devouring rat, but he was stopped by Jie Wushuang. How should I address you, young master? Jie Wushuang looked at Ling Xiao with interest. Her beautiful eyes sparkled and were filled with curiosity. I'm Lei Ling. Miss Wushuang, if you want to talk about the fragment of the divine cauldron, then forget it. Ling Xiao said plainly. Lei Ling? What a familiar name. I know that you won't sell the fragment of the divine cauldron. I'm not looking for you for the fragment of the divine cauldron. Jie Wushuang said with a smile. Her words made the corner of Ling Xiao's eyes twitch. He had already left the dozens of prefectures that Lei Ling frequented. Could it be that there were still people here who recognized Lei Ling? Ling Xiao had a bad feeling in his heart, but he still said calmly, What's the matter? I wonder if young Master Lei is interested in stone gambling? The Shi family's stone workshop recently received a batch of immortal stones. It is said that there are old mines in the God Burial Abyss, and even immortal jade fairy fetus. There must be many treasures in it. I would like to invite young Master Lei to the Shi family's stone workshop for stone gambling. How about it? Jie Wushuang said with a smile. Stone gambling at the Shi family's stone workshop? There was a strange look in Ling Xiao's eyes. Miss Jie Wushuang was really a sentimental person. How was this stone gambling? She was probably going to cause trouble? Why did Miss Wushuang invite me? I know nothing about stone gambling. Ling Xiao asked curiously. Intuition. I feel that young Master Lei is extremely lucky to be able to find the fragment of the divine cauldron. Perhaps you can find more treasures in the Shi family stone workshop. Could it be that young Master Lei is afraid of the Shi family? Jie Wushuang's eyes moved as she smiled faintly. I'm not afraid. However, I am really interested in stone gambling. Since Miss Wushuang invited me, I naturally have no reason to reject. Ling Xiao smiled and nodded in agreement. End of chapter. Chapter 29:18. Qianyuan Stone Shop. Qianyuan Stone Shop was one of the largest stone shops in the immortal ancient city. The owner behind it was the Shi family. There were countless precious immortal stones, immortal jades, and immortal fetuses. Every day, there would be many distinguished guests spending money here. Stone gambling was also a popular activity in Qianyuan Stone Shop. After all, although the Shi family was a family of stonecutters and had a deep understanding of immortal stones, they could not be completely sure whether there were any treasures in the immortal stones. This kind of unknown was the most attractive. Every day, there would be people gambling in Qianyuan Stone Shop. They would either cut out treasures and make a fortune, or they would cut out useless stones and lose everything. The immortal stones, immortal jades, and immortal fetuses in Qianyuan Stone Shop were all extremely expensive. They could be called treasures and attracted countless people to compete for them. The place where Jie Wushuang brought Ling Xiao was Qianyuan Stone Shop. Qianyuan Stone Shop was a huge manor. It looked very imposing. On both sides of the road leading inside were towering ancient trees. All of them were emitting a majestic aura of life. They looked verdant and were the spiritual roots of heaven and earth. Inside the manor, spiritual energy gathered and propitious vapors rose. Bright rays of light bloomed, like an incomparably mysterious fairyland. Many figures with powerful auras entered Qianyuan Stone Shop. All of them were dressed in luxurious clothes and had extraordinary bearings. After choosing the immortal stones, they directly took out a large sum of immortal crystals to buy them. Then they handed them over to the stonecutters of the Shi family. From time to time, there would be exclamations or regretful voices. Stone cutting was the most exciting moment. It affected everyone's heartbeat. It's Miss Jie Wushuang from the Xie family. Why would she come to Qianyuan Stone Shop? Isn't it said that the Xie family and the Shi family are not on good terms? She's not here to cause trouble, right? Someone recognized Xie Wushuang's identity and exclaimed softly. Xie Wushuang was valiant and had a different kind of beauty, especially her perfect figure, which was full of explosive power and wildness. She was like the center of heaven and earth. No matter where she appeared, she would be the focus of everyone. She was too outstanding. Therefore, after she entered Qianyuan's stone shop, she caused a sensation. Quickly informed the third young master that Xie Wushuang is here. I'm afraid she came to my Qianyuan stone shop with ill intentions. An old man with a hale and hearty face whispered to a maid beside him. Then he turned around and greeted Xie Wushuang with a smile. Miss Wushuang, what brings you here? You're willing to come to our Qianyuan stone shop. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling. The old man said with a smile. Shopkeeper, sure. I'm afraid that's not what you think, right? Don't worry, I'm not looking for trouble this time. You can treat me as an ordinary customer. I'm here for stone gambling. Xie Wushuang smiled faintly. This is Shi Dequan, the shopkeeper of Qianyuan Stone Workshop, and also an elder of the Shi family. This guy is a smiling tiger, and his eyes are very sharp. His stone dissecting skill has reached the acme of perfection. The divine immortal stones and divine jade immortal fetuses that he has his eyes on, most of them can be cut open to reveal treasures. Xie Wushuang sent a voice transmission to Ling Xiao and introduced this old man's identity. His stone dissecting skill has reached the acme of perfection? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Shi Dequan was a celestial prime expert with an extremely powerful cultivation. After all, if he wanted to become the shopkeeper of Qianyuan Stone Workshop, he must have enough strength to deter people and prevent people from coming to make trouble. However, Ling Xiao was also very curious about the stone dissecting skill that Xie Wushuang mentioned. Shopkeeper sure could use the stone dissecting skill to find out whether there were treasures in the divine immortal stones. As for Ling Xiao's insight into the divine immortal stones with the Dominator's eye, it could not be considered as stone dissecting skill at all. It could only be considered as cheating. Miss Wushuang wants to stone gambling in my Qianyuan Stone Workshop? No problem. As long as Miss Wushuang is interested in all the divine immortal stones and divine jade immortal fetuses in the Qianyuan Stone Workshop, I'll give Miss Wushuang a 10% discount. Shi Dequan said with a smile. Thank you very much, Shopkeeper Shi. Shopkeeper Shi, please go ahead. I'll take a look around first. Xie Wushuang said noncommittally. Then, she walked into the depths of the stone workshop with Ling Xiao. Although the divine immortal stones in the periphery looked strange with divine light lingering around them, and had extraordinary qi, they were all cheap goods. Most of them were below 10,000 fairy crystals, so Xie Wushuang was not interested in them at all. What she was interested in were the treasures in the Qianyuan Stone Workshop. Looking at the backs of Xie Wushuang, Ling Xiao, and the sky-devouring rat, the smile on Shi Dequan's face gradually disappeared. A thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. Stone gambling? This is a good opportunity. Shi Dequan whispered to himself. Then he turned and left. Qianyuan Stone Workshop has 3 grades of divine immortal stones: heaven, earth, and human. Human-level divine stones are mostly below 10,000 fairy crystals. Earth-level divine stones are between 10,000 fairy crystals to 1 million fairy crystals. The most precious heaven-level divine stones, including the divine jade immortal fetuses, are all priced above 1 million fairy crystals. Most of them are carefully selected by the Shi family. It is almost certain that there will be treasures in them. Xie Wushuang introduced them to Ling Xiao as she walked deeper into the workshop. The 3 grades of divine stones were also stored in the heaven, earth, and human courtyards. Human-level divine stones and earth-level divine stones were naturally the most popular for stone gambling. Heaven-level divine stones were rarely open to the public, and were only available to some distinguished guests. Because the price was too high, very few people would go to the heaven courtyard. In the human courtyard, there were 100,000 human-level divine stones. As long as someone bought it, there would be new divine immortal stones to replace it. The number of divine immortal stones had always been maintained. As for the earth courtyard, there were only 2,000 earth-level divine stones. Ling Xiao followed Xie Wushuang and walked into the earth courtyard. There's a treasure in there. It's a top-grade celestial sword. Cries of alarm rang out from the earth courtyard. Xie Wushuang and Ling Xiao both found that someone had bought a divine immortal stone. At this moment, the divine immortal stone had been opened. A bright celestial sword was floating in the void. The sword chi was rising, extremely sharp, and exuding an ancient and mysterious aura. After being preserved for so many years, it still had such power. This showed how extraordinary this celestial sword was. 20,000 divine immortal stones to get a top-grade celestial sword? This top-grade celestial sword should be worth at least 1 million immortal crystals, right? Someone exclaimed in admiration, his eyes filled with envy. At that moment, the master of the immortal stone, a black-cloaked young man, also appeared to be very excited. His face was filled with incomparable excitement. Young Master Heiyun, sell this celestial sword to me. I'll pay 1 million immortal crystals. Someone said impatiently. 1 million immortal crystals to buy this celestial sword? I'll pay 1,500,000 immortal crystals. 2 million immortal crystals. The price of the celestial sword from the divine immortal stone was quickly pushed to a very high price. Someone from the ancient god sect? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed and fell on the black-robed young man. He found that the black-robed young man was from the ancient god sect. Why would someone from the ancient god sect appear in the immortal ancient city? Ling Xiao had a bad feeling. Could it be that Saintess Yunqi had come to the immortal ancient city? Chapter 29:19. From Lei Ling's memory, Ling Xiao did not find any information about the Heiyun prince that everyone was talking about. However, Ling Xiao vaguely felt that this Heiyun prince was not simple. He probably won't recognize me, right? A thought appeared in Ling Xiao's mind. If he was recognized as Lei Ling, then it would be troublesome. Especially now, Ling Xiao was not sure if there were other experts from the ancient god cult here. Lady Wushuang is here. Someone exclaimed. Instantly, everyone's attention fell on Jie Wushuang. Jie Wushuang was like a princess in the immortal ancient city. She was famous even in the immortal world. Therefore, it wasn't just the people in the immortal ancient city who were attracted by her. Many other heavens' pride's eyes lit up when they saw her. Everyone, I'm not selling this flowing light celestial sword. Heiyun Prince kept the celestial sword and quickly walked towards Jie Wushuang. Lady Wushuang, this flowing light celestial sword is a treasure that I just found. As the saying goes, a treasure sword matches a beauty. I would like to give this flowing light celestial sword to you. Heiyun Prince said with a smile. He looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. He had a handsome appearance, jade-like skin, and was extraordinary. At this moment, he handed the flowing light celestial sword to Jie Wushuang with bright eyes. This flowing light celestial sword is too precious. You should keep it for yourself. This time, I'm here to gamble on stones in the Qianyuan stone shop. I can't accept this flowing light celestial sword without doing anything. Jie Wushuang said with a faint smile. Her expression was calm, and she did not accept the flowing light celestial sword. Heiyun Prince's expression froze. He did not expect Jie Wushuang to reject him so easily. However, his expression quickly returned to normal. It's okay. In that case, leave the flowing light celestial sword with me for the time being. However, if Lady Wushuang wants to gamble on stones, perhaps I can do it for her. I know the immortal stones in the earth courtyard like the back of my hand. I'll definitely be able to pick a valuable immortal stone for Lady Wushuang. Heiyun Prince said with a smile. He looked very elegant. He was naturally very fond of Jie Wushuang, especially after learning of her identity. He was even more attentive to her in the immortal ancient city. It was just a pity that Xie Wushuang did not have any good impression of him. No need. Young Master Black Cloud, please go ahead. I will take a look around first. Xie Wushuang said noncommittally, her expression incomparably cold. Since that's the case, I won't say anything more. He believed that with Miss Wushuang's stone-cutting skills, she would definitely be able to pick out a precious immortal stone. How should I address you, brother? Young Master Heiyun smiled and looked at Ling Xiao. His eyes were very sharp. He could see that Ling Xiao and Xie Wushuang were standing side by side like a celestial couple. This made young Master Heiyun extremely jealous. Although Ling Zhao's cultivation did not seem to be high, his bearing was extraordinary. For Xie Wushuang to treat him like this, he was probably not an ordinary person. This is a friend of mine. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Xie Wushuang frowned and said. She did not like young Master Heiyun from the bottom of her heart. However, she vaguely knew that young Master Heiyun's identity was not someone the Xie family could afford to offend. Hence, she had always kept a respectful distance from him. However, she did not expect young Master Heiyun to be like a sticky candy. As long as he saw her, he would always stick to her. Friend? Could it be that this young master is also proficient in stone cutting? The immortal stones in the earth courtyard are not cheap. Ordinary people can't afford them. If you fancy any immortal stones, I can give them to you. Young Master Heiyun sized Ling Xiao up and smiled. Thank you for your kind intentions, but there's no need. I'm only here to broaden my knowledge with Miss Wushuang. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. As expected, young Master Heiyun did not recognize him. Hence, Ling Xiao was relieved. However, he was also curious about young Master Heiyun's identity. Since young Master Heiyun was treated like this by Xie Wushuang and the surrounding people were so respectful to him, Ling Xiao was afraid that young Master Heiyun had an extraordinary position in the ancient god cult. However, Ling Xiao was sure that there was no information about young Master Heiyun in Lei Ling's memory. Where did this young Master Heiyun come from? While Ling Xiao was pondering, he went to check the immortal stones in the earth courtyard with Xie Wushuang. Boom! The immortal stones in the earth courtyard were strangely shaped. They were surrounded by immortal light, and had all kinds of mysterious appearances. There was even a great way divine sound that permeated the air. At first glance, one could tell that they were extraordinary items. The immortal stones here were expensive. Almost every immortal stone was priced at tens of thousands of immortal crystals, or even hundreds of thousands of immortal crystals. Xie Wushuang looked very casual, but Ling Xiao could see that there were strands of strange light in her eyes. Moreover, when the immortal light gushed out from her palms and brushed past the immortal stones would have some slight changes. This was the Jie family's stone cutting skill. Xie Wushuang was using the stone cutting skill to check the immortal stones. The immortal stones in the earth courtyard are so expensive. I'm afraid there must be a lot of treasures inside. Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, a strange light flashed in his eyes. He directly activated the power of Sovereign. His eyes were filled with divine light as he slowly looked at the immortal stones. The stone surface of the immortal stones was intertwined with the aura of Divine Way and Immortal Way. It also contained the chaotic origin power of the Great Way. It could have prevented all probing, but under Ling Zhao's eye of Sovereign, it had nowhere to hide. The scene inside the immortal stones was clearly perceived by Ling Xiao. There are indeed a lot of treasures. Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He found that inside the immortal stones, some contained immortal herbs, some contained immortal crystals, and some even contained powerful immortal weapons. It was indeed the largest stone workshop of the Shi family. In the earth courtyard of the Qianyuan stone workshop, Ling Xiao indeed found a lot of treasures among the thousands of immortal stones. However, Ling Xiao also found that although most of the immortal stones seemed to be shining with immortal light and extraordinary aura, they were empty. After all, there were only a few treasures that could be found in them. What's that? Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly flashed. He saw a pitch-black immortal rock in the distance. It didn't look very conspicuous, but there was a purple bead inside. It flickered with strange lightning, as if it contained a powerful aura of the Way of Thunder. That pearl made Ling Zhao's heart skip a beat. It seemed to have a strange connection with the Divine Punishment secret skill and the Thunder Emperor scripture. Ling Xiao immediately walked towards the immortal stone and was prepared to buy it now. End of chapter. Chapter 29-20. 50,000 Immortal Crystals. The immortal stone that Ling Xiao had his eyes on was not expensive, but it was not as eye-catching as the other immortal stones. Ling Xiao handed the 50,000 immortal crystals to the steward of the Shi family and bought the immortal stone. At this moment, Jie Wushuang had also chosen 3 immortal stones. The three immortal stones looked quite extraordinary as they flowed with bright immortal light and propitious qi. They were obviously not ordinary stones. Moreover, the price of the three immortal stones was also very high. They added up to 1,000,000 immortal crystals. Brother Lei, did you only buy one immortal stone? Jie Wushuang asked in surprise. I think this immortal stone should be enough to cut out treasures. It's enough, Ling Xiao said with a smile. He had looked through all the immortal stones in the earth courtyard. Although there were some precious treasures, he didn't care about them at all. Only this immortal stone was the most precious in his eyes. Brother, this immortal stone of yours looks very ordinary. There are many small cracks on it, and there is a faint purple light inside. Those are the purple light cracks, produced in the purple light mountain of the Donglin Taoist state. It's difficult to cut out any treasures from the purple light mountain. Could it be that you're embarrassed? Brother, since you're Miss Wushuang's friend, you're my friend. You can choose any immortal stone in the earth courtyard. It's all mine. At this moment, young Master Heiyun also came over and smiled at Ling Xiao. He could tell at a glance that the immortal stone that Ling Xiao had chosen was from the purple light mountain of the Donglin Taoist state. He had an extremely sharp eye and obviously had a deep understanding of the immortal stone. Brother Lei, young Master Heiyun is right. Your immortal stone should be from the purple light mountain. The purple light mountain is an ancient abandoned mine. It's difficult to cut out treasures from it. Why don't you choose another one? Xie Wushuang also reminded him. No need. I'll take this one, Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Seeing Ling Xiao so insistent, Jie Wushuang did not try to persuade him anymore. Young Master Heiyun also shook his head. In the end, he also chose an immortal stone. It was worth 900,000 immortal crystals, and was the largest one in the earth courtyard. It was more than 3 meters tall, and vaguely looked like a human-shaped statue. It emitted a dazzling immortal light. This immortal stone was also the most expensive one. Seeing young Master Black Cloud's extravagant manner, it was clear that 900,000 immortal crystals were nothing in his eyes. Ling Xiao was also very curious about young Master Black Cloud's background. After all, Lei Ling was very familiar with the higher-ups and important figures in the ancient god cult, but he had never heard of Master Heiyun's name. Young Master Heiyun actually bought that flying immortal stone? That's 900,000 immortal crystals we're talking about. If it's broken, then it'll be a huge waste. Someone praised and clicked his tongue in wonder. Since you know that this is a flying immortal stone, how can it be destroyed? I heard that the elders of the Shi family have personally examined the flying immortal stone. Although it's weak, it's still extremely precious. It almost became a divine jade fairy fetus. That's right. The flying immortal stone is extremely precious. The Shi family isn't sure about it, so they placed it in the earth courtyard. The flying immortal stone should be placed in the heaven courtyard. 900,000 immortal crystals really isn't expensive. If there's a living thing in the immortal stone, it'll definitely cause an uproar. With young Master Heiyun's luck, he should be able to get a treasure out of it, right? Young Master Heiyun's purchase of the flying immortal stone for 900,000 immortal crystals attracted the attention of everyone in the earth courtyard. Those who could come to the earth courtyard were either rich or respectable. They had all seen the flying immortal stone before, but they weren't sure about it. Therefore, no one touched it. However, everyone was very curious about the flying immortal stone. They were curious about what kind of treasure could be obtained from the flying immortal stone. Flying immortal stone? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. The power of sovereign filled his eyes, and he instantly saw through the flying immortal stone. A strange look appeared in Ling Zhao's eyes. This flying immortal stone was indeed extraordinary. Let's cut it, Jie Wushuang said lightly. Although her stone-cutting skills were extremely high, it was obvious that she couldn't cut the stone herself in such an occasion. Naturally, she handed it over to the Shi family's stone-cutting master. Miss Wushuang, why don't we cut my flying immortal stone first? I can see that everyone is very curious about the flying immortal stone. I also want to know what's inside this flying immortal stone. Young Master Heiyun said with a smile. Flying immortal stone? The aura in this flying immortal stone is neither dead nor alive. It's very strange. I've checked it before, but I can't make up my mind. Have you really decided to cut the flying immortal stone? Jie Wushuang's gaze fell on the flying immortal stone and said slowly, I believe in my eyesight. This flying immortal stone will definitely contain a treasure. Young Master Heiyun insisted. In that case, let's cut the flying immortal stone. Jie Wushuang nodded and said. She was also very curious about the flying immortal stone. Master, this young Master Heiyun looks really annoying. If there's a treasure in his flying immortal stone, he'll be in the limelight in front of Miss Wushuang again. Heaven-devouring rat said indignantly. It's his luck that there's a treasure in the flying immortal stone. It doesn't matter if he's in the limelight or not. Have you forgotten what we're here for? Ling Xiao laughed involuntarily. Master, let's not talk about whether we can really cut out the real treasure. Although there's a high probability that there's a treasure in the immortal stone in the Shi family's Qianyuan stone shop, there's also a lot of waste. Moreover, are we really going to cause trouble in the Qianyuan stone shop? Heaven-devouring rat said with a guilty conscience. Aren't you known as the treasure-seeking rat? Go take a look at these immortal stones and see if you can find any treasure. I'm counting on you, Ling Xiao said with a smile. Being stared at by Ling Xiao, Heaven-devouring rat felt even more guilty. He quickly coughed and said with a smile, Master, what are you saying? Although I'm a treasure-seeking rat, I can't see through the outer layer of the immortal stone. However, I'll try. I'll try to find more immortal stones that can be cut out with treasures. I won't let Master suffer too much. Ling Xiao gave a non-committal smile and looked into the distance. The stonecutter of the Shi family had already started to cut the stone. The immortal ascension stone was the ultimate treasure of the earth courtyard, and it was worth 900,000 immortal crystals. It had a peculiar shape, ancient and mysterious, and it was surrounded by resplendent immortal light. There was even a faint divine sound of the great Tao coming from it. It was extremely extraordinary. The hands of the stonecutter of the Shi family shone with bright light and became extremely sharp. They were surrounded by mysterious runes and started to cut the stone. Although the immortal stone was extremely hard, the hands of the stonecutter were like blades. They kept cutting the outer layer of the stone, separating the veins of the immortal stone, and breaking the divine Tao and immortal Tao aura. It was extremely ingenious and ensured that the treasure inside the immortal stone would not be damaged. Chapter 29-21. As the surface of the stone fell, everyone's attention was drawn to it. Although they had yet to see the treasure, they were extremely patient. In the entire earth courtyard, only the clear sound of the stonecutter cutting the stone could be heard. Boom. Suddenly, the stonecutter's hands trembled slightly, and immediately, a dazzling immortal light burst out from the immortal stone. A treasure has been cut out. Someone exclaimed in surprise. Immediately, everyone's attention was drawn to the immortal stone. Inside the immortal stone, there was a milky white light. It looked like a crystal-clear jade, white and flawless. In an instant, a rich fragrance filled the air, lifting everyone's spirits. They felt comfortable all over, and a warm current flowed through their limbs. It was an indescribable comfort. This is the legendary life source stone? Someone said with a trembling body. His eyes were filled with disbelief and excitement. What? Life source stone? Everyone's body trembled. These 4 words seemed to have some kind of magical power, causing their breathing to quicken. Life source stone. Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Master, the life source stone is an extremely precious treasure of heaven and earth. It's also an ultimate treasure. Not only can it be used to refine an ultimate emperor weapon, but it also contains a majestic life great Tao origin. It can enhance an expert's life origin, and there's a chance to comprehend the life origin great Tao from it. Legend has it that if there's enough life source stone, it can even allow an emperor realm expert to live for another era. Sky-devouring rat was also extremely excited as he transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. What's the value of the life source stone? Ling Xiao asked. The life source stone is extremely precious. 1/2 kilogram of it is worth tens of millions of immortal crystals, and it's priceless. This life source stone is at least a few dozen kilograms. Young Master Heian is so lucky. The heaven-devouring rat sucked in a breath of cold air. A few dozen kilograms of life source stone was equivalent to hundreds of millions of immortal crystals. The final return of 900,000 immortal stones was hundreds to thousands of times more. Even though young Master Heiyun was rich and imposing, his face was flushed at this moment. What a pity! Xie Wushuang's eyes flashed, revealing a trace of regret. At this moment, the immortal ascension stone was completely opened. Inside was a life source stone the size of a human head. It was crystal clear and dazzling, as flawless as white jade. However, everyone suddenly discovered that there was a strange insect inside the life source stone. It looked like a cricket, but also like an ant. It was pitch black and had a pair of wings on its back. It looked as thin as a cicada's wings and was very lifelike. However, there was a trace of death aura emanating from the insect's body. The insect was dead. This life source stone has been destroyed. A true life source stone had its life origin hidden within, and it was impossible for it to leak out any life origin aura. But that life origin aura just now was most likely the last life origin aura of the life source stone. My guess is that the insect must have entered the life source stone and swallowed a large amount of the life source stone. In the end, the life source stone was exhausted, and the insect died in the life source stone for some unknown reason. What a pity! If it was a complete life source stone, it would indeed be extremely precious. Xie Wushuang explained. It turned out that the life source stone in this life source stone had been completely leaked. If there was really a complete life source stone in this immortal ascension stone, even the immortal monarchs would be alarmed and might even fight over it. But now, a destroyed life source stone had no value at all. Young Master Heiyun's face instantly turned extremely ugly. As the saying goes, one thought to heaven, and one thought to hell. Young Master Heiyun had just experienced the feeling of falling from heaven to hell. Hundreds of millions of immortal crystals had disappeared. That feeling was extremely uncomfortable, and his heart was about to break. Don't worry, don't worry. Young Master Heiyun forced a smile, but that smile looked even more painful than crying. Even if the life source stone has been leaked, this life source stone is still very precious, right? And that insect inside the life source stone, could it be a primordial mutant? Someone asked doubtfully. A life source stone without the life source stone is just a good-looking stone. Perhaps it's worth dozens of immortal crystals. As for that insect, who knows how many years it has been dead? Even if it's a primordial mutant, what's the use? The stonecutter of the Sure family shook his head at this moment. At this moment, everyone looked at young Master Heiyun with eyes full of sympathy. If it was a complete life source stone, it would probably cause an uproar in the entire immortal ancient city, and young Master Heiyun would also receive a large sum of wealth. But now, everything had disappeared without a trace. Young Master Heiyun had even lost 900,000 immortal crystals. This is so fucking exciting. Someone couldn't help but curse. Just a moment ago, they thought that a supreme treasure had appeared. But in the next moment, they realized that the immortal flying stone had been destroyed. At this moment, even the stonecutter of the Sure family was very glad that young Master Heiyun had bought the immortal flying stone. Continue with the stonecutter, Jie Wushuang said lightly. Seeing young Master Heiyun's extremely uncomfortable look, she did not say anything. She could only continue with the stonecutter, hoping to divert everyone's attention. The three immortal stones that Jie Wushuang had chosen were placed on the stone table by the stonecutter of the Sure family. The three immortal stones were not big, only the size of a wash basin. They had a strange shape, surrounded by immortal light, like a fake mountain. Soon, the first immortal stone was opened. It's also a supreme-grade immortal artifact? And it's a defensive immortal artifact? Someone exclaimed. Their attention was attracted by a small round shield in the void. That small round shield was emitting a bright immortal light, like a tortoise shell. It looked simple and mysterious. It was not damaged at all, and was a flawless immortal artifact. And it was an ancient immortal artifact. A supreme-grade immortal artifact was already very rare, let alone a defensive immortal artifact. This small round shield could be sold for at least a few million immortal crystals. Continue. Jie Wushuang looked calm and requested to continue with the stonecutter. It was as if a supreme-grade defensive immortal artifact was nothing in her eyes. Soon, the other 2 immortal stones were also opened. This time they were not so lucky. Among the other 2 immortal stones, one was completely destroyed. There was nothing in it, while the other immortal stone had a strange tricolored flame. That tricolored flame was emitting a bright immortal light. It looked very simple and was floating in the void. Suddenly, the surrounding temperature began to rise. Tricolored immortal lotus fire seed? Not bad, not bad. If this tricolored immortal lotus fire evolves to the extreme, it can even evolve into a 9-colored immortal lotus fire. It can burn the heavens and destroy the earth. It's omnipotent. It's worth at least a few million immortal crystals. Someone said in surprise, recognizing the origin of that tricolored flame. Chapter 29-22. The 9-colored immortal lotus fire was one of the top 10 immortal fires in the immortal world. However, the 9-colored immortal lotus fire was not born naturally. Its most basic form was the 3-colored immortal lotus fire. It could continuously devour heaven and earth rare flames, fuse with heaven and earth treasures, and finally evolve into the ultimate form, the 9-colored immortal lotus fire. However, the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed was also extremely rare. It was extremely attractive to alchemists, weapon refiners, and experts who cultivated the great Tao of fire. Therefore, the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed was extremely precious. It was worth at least a few million immortal crystals. Xie Wushuang had spent 1,000,000 immortal crystals to buy 3 immortal stones. She had obtained a supreme-grade defensive immortal weapon, and the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed. Its value had reached tens of millions of immortal crystals. Miss Wushuang, I'll pay 3 million immortal crystals for the supreme-grade defensive immortal weapon. I'll pay 5 million immortal crystals. I want the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed. How about 5 million immortal crystals? Miss Wushuang, please sell the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed to me. Seeing the 2 treasures that Xie Wushuang had obtained, everyone was extremely excited. Whether it was the supreme-grade defensive immortal weapon or the 3-colored immortal lotus fire seed, they were all good things. Xie Wushuang did not care about the bidding of the crowd. Instead, her gaze fell on Ling Xiao. She smiled and said, "Brother Lei, do you want to take a look at your immortal stone?" Although Xie Wushuang felt that the immortal stone that Ling Xiao had bought was an old mine in the Amethyst Mountain, and it would be difficult to obtain treasures from it, she thought that Ling Xiao had already obtained a fragment of the divine cauldron. Perhaps, this immortal stone of the Amethyst Mountain could also produce treasures? Fairy Wushuang, what can be obtained from the immortal stone of the Amethyst Mountain? Even my flying immortal stone is useless. His immortal stone must be useless as well. There's no need to look at it. Why don't we go to the heavenly courtyard? There should be something good in the immortal stone there. Young Master Heiyun suddenly sneered. Although he had been pretending before, he was still hostile towards Ling Xiao. Now that the flying celestial stone had been destroyed, his mentality was already out of balance. Seeing Xie Wushuang's concern for Ling Xiao, the flames of jealousy in his heart instantly rose. He finally dropped his disguise and directly revealed his hostility towards Ling Xiao. Hearing young Master Heiyun's ear-piercing voice, Ling Xiao's brows furrowed slightly. However, he still ignored him and directly said to the stonecutter of the Shi family, "Open the stone." Young Master Heiyun, if you want to go to the heaven-class courtyard, please go ahead. Since Brother Lei chose this immortal stone, then he must have his reasons. Why do you have to be so contemptuous? Who knows, maybe Brother Lei's immortal stone will reveal some valuable treasures. Xie Wushuang glanced at young Master Heiyun indifferently. The celestial stone of the Violet Light Mountain has never yielded any treasures. I'm just stating a fact. However, since Fairy Wushuang wants to watch, then I will accompany you. He is just asking for humiliation. Young Master Heiyun sneered. Master, this guy is too despicable. He was still pretending just now. Ever since his flying celestial stone was destroyed, this guy has been targeting you everywhere. If it weren't for the fact that we can't fight here, I would really want to beat him up and vent your anger for master. Sky-devouring rat transmitted his voice with righteous indignation. I'm afraid you're not his opponent. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He didn't put young Master Heiyun in his eyes. He was just curious about the person behind young Master Heiyun. In Ling Xiao's eyes, young Master Heiyun was just a clown who wasn't worth his anger. Ling Xiao handed the immortal stone to the stonecutter. Hearing young Master Heiyun say that the immortal stone in Ling Xiao's hand was from the Violet Light Mountain, many people instantly lost interest and turned to leave. Only a few people stayed behind. However, they weren't here to watch the stonecutter, but to look at Xie Wushuang. Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent. His gaze fell on the hands of the stonecutter as he carefully observed the stonecutter's method of cutting the stone. Buzz. The stonecutter's hands were as sharp as knives, peeling off the surface of the stone. However, it was still grayish-brown in color and didn't change at all. This immortal stone has been cut halfway, but there's still nothing. It's already wasted. Fairy Wushuang, there's no need for us to stay and watch. Young Master Heiyun's eyes revealed a trace of ridicule. However, Ling Xiao didn't call for a halt. The stonecutter of the Shi family continued to cut the stone. As the mottled surface of the stone continued to fall off, the immortal stone became smaller and smaller. Suddenly, a purple ray of light bloomed from the immortal stone. There's actually a treasure out of it. Xie Wushuang was originally a little disappointed. However, her eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of incomparable shock. She saw a wisp of purple light rising from the immortal stone like lightning. Moreover, as the surface of the stone fell off, the purple lightning became brighter and brighter. Rumble. In the end, there was a rumbling sound of thunder in the earth courtyard, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. The purple light was dazzling and incomparably gorgeous. It was like a purple lightning blooming in the void. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Buzz. A purple bead floated in the void, surrounded by purple lightning. It looked crystal clear and emitted an ancient and mysterious aura. The surrounding void trembled violently. Within the purple bead, there was a vast heavenly aura that spread out, causing the surrounding people to feel their hearts palpitating. What treasure is this? Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and doubt. They never thought that the immortal stone of the Violet Light Mountain would actually yield a treasure. What made them puzzled was that the purple bead looked rather extraordinary and contained pure lightning energy. However, they couldn't recognize the origin of the purple bead. At this moment, the smile on young Master Heiyun's face froze. His face instantly became extremely gloomy and ugly. He felt a burning pain on his face, as if he had been slapped by Ling Xiao. He couldn't figure it out, nor was he willing to believe it. How could the immortal stone of the Violet Light Mountain yield a treasure? This bead must be related to the Lightning Emperor. Ling Xiao's heart trembled, and a trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. He could feel that when the purple bead appeared, not only did the Sky Punishment secret skill that he cultivated improve by leaps and bounds, but even the Lightning Emperor scripture that he cultivated began to circulate in his body on its own, and began to devour the thunderbolt power that was drifting in the surrounding void. He didn't guess wrongly. This purple bead was related to the Lightning Emperor. One of the 9 emperors of the human tribe, the Lightning Emperor, had actually been to the immortal world before. End of chapter. Chapter 29-23. This is the Great Path Source Pearl? Xie Wushuang seemed to have thought of something. She could not help but tremble, and her eyes revealed a trace of surprise. What? The Great Path Source Pearl? Everyone revealed an incomparably shocked expression. The Great Path Source Pearl was a pearl formed by the solidification of the Great Path origin in the body of an immortal monarch expert after his death. It contained the power of the Great Path origin. If a celestial prime expert refined the Great Path Source Pearl and comprehended the Great Path origin in it, it was very possible for him to break through to the immortal monarch realm. However, if he directly refined the Great Path Source Pearl, he would only be the weakest immortal monarch, even if he broke through to the immortal monarch realm. However, it could allow a celestial prime expert to comprehend the Great Path origin in it, and shorten the time needed to break through. It was a supreme treasure. However, The great path source pearl could only be encountered by chance. Not every fallen immortal monarch could nurture a great path source pearl in his body. No one expected that Ling Xiao's immortal stone from Mount Amethyst could actually produce a great path source pearl. This should be a great path source pearl of the Thunder Principle. It looks very complete. It should have been left behind by a Thunder Principle immortal monarch. Xie Wushuang said slowly. She could not help but take a few more glances at Ling Xiao. She did not expect her premonition to come true. The immortal stone from Mount Purple Light actually produced a treasure, and it was a supreme treasure like the Great Path Source Pearl. Previously, because Ling Xiao's immortal stone had produced a fragment of the divine tripod, she had invited Ling Xiao to Qianyuan Stone Shop on a whim. She did not have much hope in her heart, but now it seemed that Ling Xiao's luck was far beyond her imagination. Finding treasures twice in a row could no longer be described as luck. Perhaps Ling Xiao really had something special about him. How is this possible? Young Master Black Cloud's face was extremely ugly, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The Great Path Source Pearl was a treasure that could only be encountered by chance. It was even more precious than Xie Wushuang's supreme defensive fairy weapon, and the tricolored immortal lotus fire seed. He had just said that the immortal stone from Mount Purple Light must be a useless stone that could not produce any treasure. However, he did not expect to be slapped in the face so quickly. Young Master, I'm willing to pay 10 million immortal crystals for this Great Path Source Pearl. How about it? A hale and hearty old man with white hair and a beard walked over and smiled warmly at Ling Xiao. The old man's cultivation base was at the immortal venerable realm. Moreover, he also cultivated the Tao of Lightning. His body exuded a vast aura of lightning, majestic and mysterious. Is it Heavenly Thunder Master? Someone exclaimed, recognizing the origin of this old man. Master Heavenly Thunder was a veteran immortal venerable expert. He had been stuck in the immortal venerable realm for countless years, and had never broken through to the immortal monarch realm. No one had expected that this Great Path Source Pearl would make Lord Heavenly Thunder lose his patience. I'll take this origin bead of the Great Tao for 15 million celestial crystals. At the same time, an old Taoist wearing a moon-white Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk walked over. He looked like a transcendent being. Taoist Master Yinxiao. He was also a veteran immortal venerable who had come for the Great Tao origin pearl. Other than Heavenly Thunder Master and Yinxiao Jinren, who cultivated the Tao of Lightning, there were also other immortal venerables participating in the bidding. All of them wanted this Great Tao origin pearl. After all, for immortal venerables, even if they didn't cultivate the Tao of Lightning, they could still comprehend the complete origin of lightning from the Great Tao origin pearl, and advance to the immortal monarch realm. This was an unbearable temptation for all immortal venerables. The more the crowd chased after the Great Tao origin pearl, the uglier young Master Heiyun's expression became. His eyes were surging with cold light and killing intent. He hated Ling Xiao to the core. Everyone, I won't sell this Great Tao origin pearl for the time being. It's very useful to me. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and smiled at the crowd. This wasn't some immortal monarch's Great Tao origin pearl. It was very likely to be the Thunder Emperor's Great Tao origin pearl. How could Ling Xiao sell it to them? Seeing Ling Xiao's resolute expression, the crowd felt a little regretful, but they could only give up. After all, with Xie Wushuang around, they didn't dare to force a sale. The stonecutter of the Shi family also had an ugly expression. It was fine that Xie Wushuang had unearthed 2 treasures, but Ling Xiao had actually unearthed a Great Tao origin pearl from a piece of Mount Purple Light mine. Wasn't this saying that the Shi family was blind? Xie Wushuang isn't here to make trouble today, is she? The stonecutter of the Shi family guessed. I didn't expect the Shi family's Qianyuan stone workshop to unearth a Great Tao origin pearl. This is really worthy of celebration. I'll pay 30 million immortal crystals for this Great Tao origin pearl. No one is allowed to compete with me. At this moment, a proud laughter rang out in the earth courtyard. It's the 3rd young master of the Shi family, Shi Tianying? Someone exclaimed in surprise. This voice was simply too familiar. In the entire immortal ancient city, almost everyone knew the 3rd young master of the Shi family, Shi Tianying. The crowd parted, and Shi Tianying stepped forward. His expression was arrogant and indifferent. Although there was a smile at the corner of his mouth, he had a haughty attitude. Beside Shi Tianying was the beautiful Shi Qingyi, who looked extraordinary, and a young man who was as gentle as jade and had a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. That must be Fairy Shi Qingyi of the All-Kate Immortal sect, right? It's not just Fairy Qingyi. Do you see that young man? He is the holy son of the All-Kate Immortal sect, Ren Xiaoyao. Ren Xiaoyao? He is known as the King of Heaven's pride in the immortal world. One of the 10 great immortal masters in the immortal world, Senior Immortal Xiaoyao? Yes. Senior Immortal Xiaoyao has come to the immortal ancient city. I'm afraid they are here for the upcoming stone-cutting ceremony, right? Everyone was talking about it, and their attention was attracted by Shi Qingyi and Ren Xiaoyao. Especially Ren Xiaoyao, who was extremely famous in the immortal world. He was as famous as Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji. Everyone's expression became a little strange. The Xie family and the Shi family were not on good terms. Because of the stone-cutting ceremony, they were at daggers drawn recently. Xie Wushuang came to the Qianyuan stone shop today to make trouble. Now that Shi Tianying and Shi Qingyi had come, and even the holy son of the All-Kate Immortal sect, Ren Xiaoyao, there would be a good show to watch. Shi Tianying stepped forward, and his gaze fell on the great path source bead floating in the void. There was a trace of passion in his eyes. As for Ling Xiao, he did not take him seriously at all. He directly stretched out his hand and grabbed the great path source bead. Ling Xiao's eyes turned cold. He directly stretched out his hand in the air, and a vast and majestic devouring power erupted. The great path source bead flew directly back into his palm. Chapter 29-24. At this moment, Shi Tianying didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. He still clawed at Ling Xiao from the air. The cultivation of the Celestial King realm erupted, making this claw seem to be able to tear the void apart. I'm not selling the great path source bead. Get lost. Ling Xiao said faintly, and then punched out in the air. Boom. Ling Xiao's fist print was extremely fierce, and contained an extremely powerful oppressive force. It collided with Shi Tianying's palm in an instant, and a muffled sound erupted in the void. Ling Xiao didn't move, but Shi Tianying's expression changed. He felt a surge of divine power that could topple mountains and overturn seas, causing his arm to shake violently and make a crisp sound. Crack. Shi Tianying's arm had actually been broken off. Blood splattered, and Shi Tianying's whole body trembled. His qi and blood surged and he staggered back. In the end, Ren Xiaoyao helped him stabilize his body. How dare you hurt me? Shi Tianying snapped, and there was a trace of cold killing intent in his eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As his voice sounded, figures with powerful auras rushed over from all directions. Their eyes were indifferent, and their bodies were full of killing intent, enveloping Ling Xiao, Jie Wushuang, and young Master Heiyun. The guards of the Shi family's Qianyuan stone shop were dispatched. Shi Tianying's injury was something that no one had expected. After all, Ling Xiao looked just like an immortal. It was almost impossible for him to seriously injure Shi Tianying, who was in the Celestial King realm. They were afraid that Ling Xiao had hidden his cultivation. Hurt you? The great path source bead is mine. I said I'm not selling it, so I'm not selling it. Are you going to rob me? Ling Xiao sneered, and his eyes were full of sarcasm. Surrounded by the experts of the Shi family, he didn't show the slightest fear. With the great path source bead in his hand, he looked very relaxed, giving everyone an unfathomable feeling. You're a Celestial Prime? I'm sorry. Since you're a Celestial Prime, why are you pretending to be an immortal? Why are you hiding like this? What are your intentions? Ren Xiaoyao glanced at Ling Xiao indifferently. It's none of your business. Ling Xiao glanced at Ren Xiaoyao. Arrogant. He was too arrogant. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't expect that Ling Xiao not only injured Shi Tianying, but also looked down on Ren Xiaoyao. Upon hearing Ling Xiao's words, even Ren Xiaoyao's elegant face revealed a trace of coldness. Shi Tianying, what do you want? Can Qianyuan stone shop force people to buy and sell? The great Dao source bead was opened by Lei Ling. It was his freedom to sell it to whomever he wanted. I advise you to behave yourself. Otherwise, Don't blame me for tearing down the Qianyuan stone workshop. Xie Wushuang stood up and said indifferently. Although she was extremely beautiful, she was wearing armor and looked valiant. Her words were extremely domineering, as if she did not put the Shi clan in her eyes at all. Tianying to do it. Sure Tianying sure was sure. S. Ti want to Tianying to be to fight to fighting to be it of the Qianyuan Chiu Ti Qianyuan of. At this moment, young Master Heiyun's face turned even uglier. He was regarded as Ling Xiao and Xie Wushuang's accomplice, and was surrounded by the experts of the Shi family. He couldn't leave or stay, so he was in an awkward situation. Ling Xiao was the cause of all this. He wanted to shout that he had nothing to do with Ling Xiao, but he swallowed his words when he glanced at Jie Wushuang. This Lei Ling was simply a jinx. Lei Ling? The name sounded familiar. Young Master Heiyun's eyes showed a trace of doubt. Jie Wushuang and Shi Tianying were at each other's throats again. Tianying, stop. You can all leave. Qianyuan Stone Shop is open for business. Everyone is a guest. Miss Wushuang is honored by your presence, so we welcome you. At this moment, Shi Qingyi stopped Shi Tianying and smiled faintly at Xie Wushuang. Her smile was like the spring wind and rain, instantly easing the tense atmosphere. The experts of the Shi family all left under Shi Qingyi's order. That's right. We're here because of the reputation of the Qianyuan Stone Shop. It's said that there are many treasures in the Qianyuan Stone Shop, so we're here to take a look. Now it seems that it's not bad. It's a surprise that there are supreme-grade defensive fairy weapons, tricolored celestial lotus fire seed, and Great Way source bead. Jie Wushuang said flatly, but there was a hint of sarcasm in her words. It's your fortune to be able to find treasures. But Miss Wushuang, the most precious thing in the Qianyuan Stone Shop is the Heaven Yard. The immortal stones in the Earth Yard don't match your status. Why don't I accompany you to the Heaven Yard to play? Shi Qingyi said with a smile. How? It's simple. Stone gambling. We'll each pick an immortal stone in the Heaven Yard. Whoever has the most valuable treasure in the immortal stone will be the winner. How about that? Sure. But how do you want to bet? So what if you lose? So what if you win? If you lose, your friend injured my third brother. How about letting him kneel down and kowtow to my third brother and apologize? If you win, the treasures in the 2 immortal stones will belong to you. No. I've never used my friends as wagers. Moreover, everyone knows how Shi Tianying was injured. Jie Wushuang shook her head and rejected Shi Qingyi's wager. She was here to gamble, but she had her own principles. She could not use Ling Zhao's dignity as a wager. Are you afraid, Miss Wushuang? Shi Qingyi said with a chuckle. It doesn't matter if I'm afraid or not. This is a matter of principle. I don't have the habit of using my friend's dignity as a wager. If you want to bet, sure. Let's bet big. If you lose, give the Qianyuan Stone Shop to my Jie family. If we lose, the mysterious yellow stone shop will belong to you. Jie Wushuang said flatly. What? Jie Wushuang's words shocked everyone. Jie Wushuang's wager was too big. She actually wanted to use 2 stone shops as a wager? The mysterious yellow stone shop was one of the Jie family's signature stone shops. It was not inferior to the Qianyuan Stone Shop. There were many precious immortal stones and immortal jades in it. Once this wager took effect, it would be a huge wager that would shake both the Jie family and the Shi family. No matter who lost a stone shop, their vitality would be greatly damaged. Especially at this critical moment when the stone-cutting ceremony was about to begin. This wager would determine the success or failure of the Jie family and the Shi family. The wager was too big. Shi Qingyi's brows furrowed. She didn't expect Jie Wushuang to make such a big move. Her original intention was to help Shi Tianying vent her anger. But now, if he accepted this bet, it would directly affect the outcome of the stone opening ceremony of the Shi family and the Xian family. Chapter 29-25. What? You don't dare? The Qianyuan Stone Shop belongs to your Shi family. I'm afraid you are more familiar with the hundreds of fairy stones in the Heaven Courtyard than anyone else. If you don't dare to bet, get out of the way. I also want to go to the heaven courtyard to see what good things are in the Qianyuan stone shop. Xie Wushuang looked at Shi Qingyi's hesitation and said with a faint smile, Xie Wushuang, you don't have to provoke me. Let's bet. I'm just afraid that when you lose the Qianhuang stone shop, your Xie family won't even be qualified to participate in the stone-cutting ceremony. Shi Qingyi sneered and said with a frosty face, Don't worry, my Xie family won't lose. It's okay to bet. The Qianhuang stone shop of my Xie family is originally under my name. I can make the decision. But can you make the decision about the Qianyuan stone shop? Xie Wushuang said lightly. You. Shi Qingyi was so angry that she flew into a rage out of humiliation. But she was also speechless. Xie Wushuang was right. Xie Wushuang was the genius of the Xie family and was in charge of a lot of resources. The Qianhuang stone shop was in the hands of Xie Wushuang, so she could naturally bet with it. But the Qianyuan stone shop was not under the name of Shi Qingyi and Shi Tianying. She can't make the decision, but I can. Xie Wushuang, if you want to bet, then let's bet. If you win, I'll give you the Qianyuan stone shop. So what? At this moment, an indifferent and ethereal voice sounded. Big brother? Shi Tianying was shocked, and her face suddenly showed a look of great surprise. In the distance, a valiant young man in a moon-white robe walked over. He walked with a majestic gait and an extraordinary temperament. However, his face looked dignified and domineering. His entire body exuded a powerful aura. Big brother, you finally came out. Shi Qingyi also breathed a sigh of relief in her heart and said with some excitement. Brother Wuji, long time no see. Ren Xiaoyao's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He cupped his hands and bowed to Shi Wuji. Brother Xiaoyao, I've let you see a joke today. Shi Wuji's eyes were cold and indifferent. It was as if he didn't put anyone else in his eyes except for Xie Wushuang. However, he valued Ren Xiaoyao very much. Not only was Ren Xiaoyao the holy son of the All-Kate Immortal sect, but he was also here on behalf of the All-Kate Immortal sect to discuss an important matter with the Shi clan. Although Shi Wuji was proud and arrogant, he didn't dare to underestimate Ren Xiaoyao. Brother Wuji, what are you saying? Qingyi is a disciple of my All-Kate Immortal school, so our two sects are one family. As a family, let's not talk like strangers. Today, I also want to see Fairy Wushuang's stone dissecting technique. Ren Xiaoyao said with a smile. He looked gentle and refined, but he made it clear that he was on the Shi family's side. Xie Wushuang frowned slightly. They were naturally very familiar with the rules of stone gambling. Under the witness of everyone, Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji swore by the primordial spirit and made a heavenly oath to make a bet. Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji were the two supreme kings of the immortal ancient city. At this moment, the two of them were stone gambling in the heaven courtyard with the mysterious Yellowstone workshop and the Qianyuan stone workshop as the stakes. This immediately caused a sensation. The customers in the Qianyuan stone shop rushed towards the sky courtyard one after another. Each of their eyes revealed an incomparably excited and expectant expression. The ultimate stone-cutting competition was a big scene that couldn't be missed. Everyone left the earth courtyard and came to the heaven courtyard of the Qianyuan stone workshop. There were only a few hundred fairy stones in the heaven courtyard. Among them, there were more than a dozen divine jades and immortal fetuses. Each of them was a priceless treasure. These fairy stones had different shapes and were very strange. They bloomed with bright immortal light. Some were like weapons, some were like plants, and some were like beating hearts. They exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. At first glance, one could tell that they were not ordinary objects. The heaven courtyard was rarely open to the public. Those who were qualified to enter the heaven courtyard were either rich or noble. As soon as they came to the heaven courtyard, everyone began to exclaim, the Jie family deserved to be called a stone-cutting family. Any fairy stone in the heaven courtyard of the Qianyuan stone workshop was enough to be the treasure of the other stone workshops. Chapter 29-26. In the center of the heaven courtyard, there was an incense table with an incense burner and an incense stick. Within 30 minutes, 3 immortal stones had to be selected. After the final stone was cut, The winner would be the one with the highest value of the treasure. Everyone's eyes fell on Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji, and their eyes were full of expectation. Xie Wushuang, I can give you some time to observe the immortal stones in the heaven courtyard, lest others say that the Shi family took advantage of you. Shi Wuji said faintly. No need, let's get started. Xie Wushuang said. She had been to the heaven courtyard before, so she knew about the immortal stones here. It was difficult to see anything in a short time, so she didn't want to waste more time. In that case, let's get started. Shi Wuji waved his hand, and the incense on the incense table was lit. On the Xie family's side, Xie Wushuang walked towards the immortal stones with young Master Heiyun, Ling Xiao, and Sky-Devouring Rat. Shi Wuji also entered the heaven courtyard with Ren Xiaoyao, Shi Qingyi, and Shi Tianying. As for everyone else, they were watching outside the heaven courtyard. Everyone was looking forward to it. This stone gambling was more like a preview of the stone-cutting ceremony. The confrontation between the Xie family and the Shi family was finally put on the table. Everyone was observing the movements of Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji while talking. The Xie family is obviously at a disadvantage in this stone gambling. I don't understand why Xie Wushuang agreed to this stone gambling. This is the Qianyuan Stone Workshop, the home of the Shi family. The Shi family must be very clear about the immortal stones in the heaven courtyard. Isn't that so? I think Xie Wushuang is too impulsive this time. Although Xie Wushuang is extraordinarily talented and her stone-cutting skills are better than her master's, Shi Wuji's stone-cutting skills are also very strong. If she loses the Qianhuang Stone Workshop this time, the Xie family will definitely lose in the next stone-cutting ceremony. Not necessarily. Even immortals can't see through the immortal stones. The stone-cutting skills only make them have a higher probability of finding treasures than ordinary people. It's not absolute. Maybe Xie Wushuang has something to rely on. I'm really looking forward to it. I wonder who will win in the stone dissecting contest between Xie Wushuang and Shi Wuji? Let's wait and see. Brother Lei, you can just help me pick one out of the 3 immortal stones. Leave the other 2 to me, Xie Wushuang said. Understood. Ling Xiao nodded and said. What about me? Wushuang, give one of them to me. I guarantee that I'll choose a divine immortal stone that will satisfy you. Young Master Heiyun hurriedly said. Young Master Heiyun, take a look around. This battle concerns the life and death of my Jie family. I want to choose the 2 immortal stones myself. Xie Wushuang said seriously. All right. Young Master Heiyun was extremely depressed. He glanced at Ling Xiao, who had a calm expression, and his heart burned with jealousy. Xie Wushuang would rather believe Ling Xiao than him, which hurt him greatly. Ling Xiao ignored young Master Heiyun, and said to the Sky-Devouring Rat, Sky-Devouring Rat, use your treasure hunting talent to see if there are any different immortal stones. If there are any, tell me. The Sky-Devouring Rat was an ancient species, and was naturally sensitive to treasures. Just like the immortal stone of the Xiantian Immortal Lord, it was found by the Sky-Devouring Rat. There were a few hundred immortal stones here. It was still difficult to pick the 3 most valuable ones within an incense stick's time. Xie Wushuang didn't place all her bets on Ling Xiao. That was why she had only allowed him to pick an immortal stone. That way, Ling Xiao would have to ensure that the immortal stone he picked was the most precious treasure in the heavenly monastery. Ling Xiao walked casually and passed through the many immortal stones. The Shi family members seemed to have come prepared as they went straight for the Divine Jade Immortal Fetus. Generally speaking, the Divine Jade Immortal Fetus was the best among the immortal stones. It contained boundless vitality, and had the highest probability of finding treasures. Moreover, they were all supreme treasures. However, this was not absolute. The Divine Jade Immortal Fetus could also be destroyed. There were also shocking supreme treasures in the immortal stones. What they did not see was that Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with bright light. The power of the sovereign lingered in his eyes, making his eyes incomparably strange. He had the power to see through everything. The outer layer of the immortal stones could no longer block Ling Xiao's prying eyes. The divine Dao and immortal Dao aura spread out, and Ling Xiao saw the scene inside the immortal stones. There are indeed many precious treasures in the heaven courtyard. Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. He found a purple battle saber in the first immortal stone. It was a supreme immortal tool. After that, Ling Xiao also saw mysterious elixirs and powerful weapons in the immortal stones. There was even an ancient jade book with runes on it that recorded mysterious cultivation techniques. However, Ling Xiao's power of the sovereign was not limitless. He could not use it without a limit. Therefore, he also checked selectively. At this moment, Shi Tianying looked at Ling Xiao with some resentment and sent a message to Shi Wuji. Brother, that Lei Ling is a little strange. He found the fragments of the divine cauldron in the Jie family's stone workshop, and the great path source pearl in the earth courtyard. Does he also know the stone cutting technique? Stone cutting technique. Other than the Jie family and my Shi family, who else in the divine world dares to say that they know the stone cutting technique? Don't worry, this time they will definitely lose. Shi Wuji said with a sneer. Brother, could it be that you have found the most precious immortal stone? Shi Tianying's eyes lit up and she quickly asked. In the entire heaven courtyard, the most precious immortal stone, or the divine jade immortal fetus, is this. Shi Wuji stopped in front of a divine jade immortal fetus. His gaze fell on the divine jade immortal fetus with a tinge of excitement in his eyes. It was a divine jade immortal fetus that looked like a mountain. It was about 10 feet tall, and its surface was gray. However, it emitted a bright divine light, and there was a breath of life emanating from it. Brother, what's in it? Shi Qingyi asked curiously. They were all very curious as to why Shi Wuji was so sure that the treasure in this divine jade immortal fetus was the most valuable treasure in the entire heaven courtyard. This divine jade immortal fetus was originally supposed to be in the auction tomorrow. Now that it is here, once it is born, it will shake the entire immortal ancient city. Shi Wuji touched the divine jade immortal fetus that looked like a mountain with a tinge of excitement in his eyes. Could this be the divine jade immortal fetus that sealed the weapon of the Xiantian celestial lord? Shi Qingyi seemed to have thought of something. She could not help but tremble as she sent a message to Shi Wuji. That's right. It's that piece. The old ancestor has already confirmed that it sealed the weapon of the Xiantian celestial lord. In the entire heaven courtyard, is there any treasure that can compare to it? Shi Wuji smiled faintly with a tinge of sharpness in his eyes. Chapter 29-27. Master, this is bad. Just as Shi Wuji chose the divine fetus, the anxious voice of heaven-devouring rat entered Ling Zhao's mind. What's going on? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he asked. The divine fetus that Shi Wuji chose is the one that I sold to the Shi family. It might contain the Xiantian celestial master's weapon. Heaven-devouring rat said with a bitter smile. The weapon of the Xiantian celestial master? The Xiantian sword? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he looked at the divine jade fairy fetus. Buzz. Ling Zhao's eyes were covered with a layer of sovereign power. He instantly saw through the stone surface of the divine fetus, and saw the inside of the divine fetus. Clang. There were clanging sounds in front of Ling Xiao as sword chi swept across the place. There was indeed an immortal sword inside the divine fetus. It was surrounded by dazzling immortal light and auspicious air. It looked like it was made of neither gold nor jade. It was made of a very special material, but it revealed a trace of extreme emperor's aura. Is this the Xiantian sword? Ling Zhao's heart jumped. The sword looked very powerful as it flowed with powerful extreme emperor's aura. It looked like an extreme emperor weapon. If Shi Wuji really unearthed an extreme emperor weapon, Jie Wushuang would definitely lose. No, there's something wrong with the sword. Ling Xiao suddenly realized that the sword was actually covered in dense cracks, as though it had been pieced together after being broken. The extreme emperor's aura was seeping out from the cracks. Although it looked extraordinary at the moment, once it was unlocked, there would be a lot of fun. Ling Zhao's expression was a little strange. He wanted to know what Shi Wuji's expression would be when he unearthed the divine immortal stone. However, Ling Xiao was also confused. If the Xiantian sword was the Xiantian celestial master sword, how could it be so damaged? Moreover, it was sealed in the divine fetus. Ling Xiao thought of the divine fetus on him. Perhaps he would only know the reason if he unearthed the divine fetus. After Sherwuji chose the divine jade fetus that contained the profound heaven sword, he felt a lot more relaxed. Soon he chose 2 more divine jade fetus. After all, although there were a few hundred divine stones in the heaven courtyard, there were only a dozen divine fetus. The chances of treasures appearing in the divine fetus was also higher. Moreover, even Xie Wushuang was pacing back and forth among the dozen divine jades. She carefully examined the divine jades and immortal fetuses, wanting to find valuable treasures. The heaven-devouring rat was extremely anxious. Although it had helped Ling Xiao find a few immortal stones that it felt might have treasures, Ling Xiao still gave up after seeing what was inside. Although the treasures in the immortal stones were not bad, it was still not enough to form an overwhelming advantage. Soon, more than half an incense stick's worth of time had passed. Ling Xiao had also walked through the entire courtyard, but he didn't find any particularly precious treasures among the immortal stones. This is the Qianyuan stone shop, so he naturally has the home advantage. But there aren't any overly precious treasures in the divine immortal stones here. Ling Xiao sighed softly in his heart. Suddenly, Ling Xiao's eyes flashed and fell on a very inconspicuous divine immortal stone. It was called a divine immortal stone, but it was actually a stone table made of divine immortal stone. It looked like a mountain with a divine jade fetus on it. The divine immortal stone was a shelf for the divine jade fetus. But Ling Xiao felt that the divine immortal stone was unusual. Buzz. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. The power of the sovereign lingered in his eyes. In an instant, his eyes were like beams of light that pierced through the surface of the divine immortal stone, and saw what was inside. This is... Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and a sharp glint appeared in his eyes. After seeing the treasures inside the divine immortal stone, he instantly decided that it was this divine immortal stone. Ling Xiao walked up to the divine jade fetus and picked it up. That's the young man who found the Great Path Source Pearl? He seems to be with Fairy Wushuang. Could he have helped Fairy Wushuang choose this divine jade fetus? Someone asked doubtfully. It's possible. But this divine jade fetus is obviously not as good as the 3 that Sherwuji chose. Even if there are treasures in it, the chances are not very high. Someone nodded and said. But what happened next made everyone's eyes widen. Ling Xiao didn't even look at the godly jade fairy fetus. Instead, he casually threw the godly jade fairy fetus to the ground and picked up the pedestal. I'd like to ask, does this divine immortal stone count? Ling Xiao asked flatly. Sure, Tianying was stunned at first. Then, she laughed loudly and said with a mocking look, Lei Ling, you didn't choose the divine jade fetus but chose this pedestal? Aha! What a joke! Of course it counts. Although this is a pedestal, it's still a divine immortal stone. Since you chose this piece, we have no objections. That's right. If you've really decided, this divine immortal stone will count. Sherwuji said flatly. At this moment, everyone's eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. Am I seeing things? Could it be that this Lei Ling was an idiot? He didn't want the divine jade fetus, but chose a divine immortal stone. And it's the divine immortal stone that's used as the pedestal of the divine jade fetus? Does this guy really think that treasures can be found in this divine immortal stone? Ha! I'm dying of laughter. I think it's a big joke that Fairy Wushuang brought this guy here. Looks like the Xie family is going to lose this time. They'll lose because of Lei Ling. Could Lei Ling be a spy from the Shi family? Everyone was in disbelief. They did not expect Ling Xiao to choose such a special divine immortal stone. Brother Lei, are you sure you want to choose this divine immortal stone? Xie Wushuang was also surprised, but she still looked at Ling Xiao seriously and asked, Lei Ling, you're harming Wushuang. What good things can there be in the pedestal of a divine jade fetus? If there were treasures, they would have landed in the hands of the Shi family. Young Master Heiyun sneered. Ling Xiao ignored young Master Heiyun. Instead, he smiled at Xie Wushuang and said, Fairy Wushuang, I'm sure. If you trust me, choose this divine immortal stone. Chapter 29-28. Xie Wushuang took a deep look at Ling Xiao, But Ling Zhao's expression was calm and indifferent. She couldn't see anything from Ling Zhao's expression, but she couldn't help but feel a sense of trust in him. All right. I'll take this fairy stone, Xie Wushuang said seriously. Wushuang, do you really believe in Lei Ling? You'll regret it, young Master Heiyun said in exasperation. But no matter what he said, Xie Wushuang seemed to have steeled her heart to believe in Ling Xiao and finally chose that fairy stone. The time for an incense stick to burn passed quickly. The 3 fairy stones chosen by Shi Wuji were naturally divine jade fairy fetuses. Xie Wushuang chose 2 divine jade fairy fetuses and 1 fairy stone. Everyone had a strange expression on their faces. Many of them looked at Ling Xiao with mockery in their eyes. They sighed in their hearts. They were afraid that Xie Wushuang would lose the mysterious Yellowstone mill to the Shi family because of Ling Xiao. Xie Wushuang, you and I are both stonecutter. Naturally, we don't need to rely on outsiders. In that case, how about we cut our own stones? Shi Wuji glanced at Xie Wushuang and smiled slightly. He already had victory in his hands. No matter what Xie Wushuang chose, he believed that he would win this time. Moreover, Xie Wushuang actually believed in Ling Xiao and chose a fairy stone as the base of the divine jade fairy fetuses, which filled Shi Wuji with confidence. Sure. Xie Wushuang nodded calmly. Then do you want to go first or should I? Shi Wuji asked. The guests will follow the host's decision. You go first, Xie Wushuang said. All right. Shi Wuji nodded and didn't decline. He walked over directly. Everyone's gaze fell on Shi Wuji. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. This was the most precious heaven courtyard in the Shi family's Qianyuan stone shop. They naturally believed that the 3 divine jade fairy fetuses that Shi Wuji had chosen would definitely contain precious treasures. They just didn't know what kind of treasures would be born from these 3 divine jade fairy fetuses. Buzz. Shi Wuji stood in the center with his hands behind his back. His figure was handsome and imposing, and he emitted an extraordinary temperament. He had a lofty attitude, as if he was a king looking down on all living things. He stretched out his jade-like hand, and there was a dazzling light flashing in his palm. In an instant, a beam of immortal light bloomed from it, following his palm towards a piece of divine jade immortal fetus. That piece of divine jade immortal fetus trembled slightly, and the outer layer of stone actually fell off rapidly, without damage. Divines and immortal qi. The immortal Tao and immortal qi were immortal, and immortal qi without any. The immortals. In just a few moments, the divine jade immortal fetus shed a few layers of stone and became smaller. Resplendent immortal light began to bloom from it. His T.S. Shi Wuji's speed was more than 10 times faster than that of the Shi family's stonecutter. Legend has it that Shi Wuji has surpassed his master. His stonecutter skills have reached the pinnacle of the Shi family, and the ancestors of the Shi family are full of praise for him. It seems that the rumors are not true. With such a strange stonecutter skills, it seems that the Jie family will lose in the stonecutter ceremony. Someone exclaimed. That's right. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of treasure Shi Wuji will find this time. Could it be a quasi-emperor weapon? Or a quasi-emperor immortal pill? Or it could be an extreme metal? Seeing Shi Wuji's fast stonecutter speed, Jie Wushuang's expression became slightly solemn. The 2 families of stonecutter were families of stonecutter. They both had extraordinary stonecutter skills. Stonecutter was not only a skill to explore heaven and earth, but also a supreme offensive skill. Shi Wuji's stonecutter skills were so high, and his speed was so fast that it was like an art. This also showed that Shi Wuji's strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. Shi Wuji should be close to the immortal realm, right? Jie Wushuang thought to herself. No one noticed that Ling Zhao's eyes were shining, and there was a layer of strange light over his eyes. That was the eye of the ruler. Under Ling Zhao's eye of the ruler, Shi Wuji's stonecutter skills seemed to be slowed down by thousands of times. They became extremely slow, and appeared very clearly in Ling Zhao's eyes. Ling Xiao could see that Shi Wuji's hands were trembling slightly. In fact, his speed was so fast that it was difficult for the naked eye to catch. Shi Wuji's palms were patting, shaking, cutting, and cutting. Every time, They landed accurately on the nodes where the divine Tao and immortal Tao auras intertwined. He quickly separated the two, and then peeled off the stone surface. The reason why it was difficult to see through the immortal stone was because the divine Tao and immortal Tao auras were intertwined on the surface of the stone. Without stonecutter skills, forcibly cutting the stone would easily cause a conflict between the divine Tao and immortal Tao auras, which would cause an explosion and completely destroy the immortal stone. Ordinary stonecutter would be very careful during the process of stonecutter. They didn't dare to relax in the slightest, for fear of damaging the immortal stone. However, Wuji's stonecutter was like a kind of art. It looked casual, but it was extremely easy for him to break open the stone surface, gradually revealing the things inside. Through Wuji's stonecutter skills, Ling Xiao gradually learned the stonecutter skills of the Shi family. So this is the stonecutter skill. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and there was a hint of understanding in his eyes. The stonecutter skill was a skill to break down the divine Tao and immortal Tao auras. One had to understand the origin of the divine Tao and immortal Tao. From this point of view, it wasn't difficult for Ling Xiao to master the stonecutter skill since he had the divine Tao and immortal Tao. Moreover, under Ling Xiao's abnormal eye of the ruler, Wuji's stonecutter skills were completely revealed to Ling Xiao, allowing Ling Xiao to master the stonecutter skill very quickly. If it weren't for the fact that this place wasn't suitable, Ling Xiao would have already tried to cut the stone. There's a treasure! Someone exclaimed in surprise. Boom! Inside the divine jade fairy fetus, a 5-colored divine glow gushed out, containing the mysterious power of the 5 elements. In an instant, it appeared in front of everyone. The divine jade fairy fetus was completely cut open, revealing the formation inside. It was a piece of metal that emitted 5-colored light. It looked about the size of a fist, but it contained vast and majestic power of the 5 elements. It looked flawless, as if it had formed the most perfect balance. It's the 5 elements immortal gold. Someone said in a trembling voice, his eyes filled with disbelief. Is it really the 5 elements immortal gold? This is an extreme metal unique to our immortal realm. It's a supreme treasure used to forge immortal emperor weapons. I didn't expect such a treasure to be found. Everyone's faces were filled with excitement. Top. Chapter 29-29. The 5 elements immortal gold looked dazzling and dazzling. It was surrounded by 5-colored divine light, and there was a mysterious origin energy of the great Tao spreading out from it. The 5 elements intertwined with each other, forming the most perfect balance. The dazzling light looked very intoxicating. 5 elements immortal gold? Wuji was also a little surprised, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Although he found that there was a treasure in the divine jade fetus, he didn't know what it was. He didn't expect it to be a 5 elements immortal gold. This is really a good fortune. With this 5 elements immortal gold, my natal treasure can finally be perfect. Wuji smiled slightly. He felt that he was going to win. Even without the mysterious heavenly sword, he would win with the 5 elements immortal gold. Xie Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. It was actually a 5 elements immortal gold? The divine jade fetus of the Qianyuan stone shop was indeed extraordinary. It was extremely difficult to extract an extreme Tao metal from the divine jade fetus. In the entire immortal ancient city, the number of extreme Tao metals that had been extracted could be counted on one's fingers. Ah! My Qianyuan stone shop actually extracted a 5 elements immortal gold? Good fellow Wuji, come and show it to your granduncle. In the depths of the Qianyuan stone shop, a figure with a terrifying aura suddenly came out, bursting with dazzling light. An old man with white hair and beard flew across the sky and landed beside Wuji in an instant. His eyes were filled with excitement. An immortal monarch expert from the Shi family? Everyone trembled when they felt the origin energy from the old man. They couldn't help but be shocked, and their eyes were filled with awe. This old man was a real immortal monarch expert. The immortal monarch of the Shi family in charge of the Qianyuan stone shop, Shirin. Everyone didn't expect that the birth of the 5 elements immortal gold would alarm immortal monarch Shirin of the Shi family. Although immortal monarch Shuren came for the 5 elements immortal gold, he probably also wanted to put pressure on Xie Wushuang. Everyone looked at Xie Wushuang with a trace of pity in their eyes. This time, Xie Wushuang was definitely going to lose. Granduncle, look. Shi Wuji smiled and handed the 5 elements immortal gold to immortal monarch Shuren. Good lad. Not bad. Not bad at all. I heard that the little girl from your Jiejie family is gambling on stones, right? Using Qianyuan Stone Workshop as a wager, this young man was really daring. Aha. With Granduncle here, no one dares to behave atrociously in my Qianyuan Stone Workshop. You can open your stones in peace. Immortal monarch Shuren laughed. Yes. Shi Wuji nodded, then turned around and continued to cut the stones. With the 5 elements immortal metal leading the way, everyone was looking forward to Shi Wuji's results. They wondered what kind of treasures he would find in the next 2 divine jade immortal fetuses. The second divine jade immortal fetus was quickly unearthed as well. To everyone's disappointment, although the second divine jade fetus also revealed a treasure, and it was a supreme grade immortal weapon, the tip of the spear was broken. It was a damaged supreme grade immortal weapon. Although it was still powerful and valuable, it was still inferior to the 5 elements immortal gold. However, Shi Wuji did not mind. His gaze landed on the 3rd piece of divine jade, the immortal fetus. The mysterious heaven sword will be born today. Shi Wuji's eyes shone brightly, filled with anticipation. The mysterious heaven sword was famous in the immortal world because of the mysterious heaven immortal monarch. According to the legends, the mysterious heaven immortal monarch was the most promising person to become an immortal emperor. He was extremely powerful, and was known as the invincible immortal monarch. He had never been defeated in the immortal world. The mysterious heaven sword, a supreme great emperor weapon, shone brightly because of the mysterious heaven immortal monarch. However, due to an unforeseen event, the mysterious heaven immortal monarch died in battle, and the mysterious heaven sect was completely destroyed. However, the divine jade immortal fetus that contained the mysterious heaven sword fell into the hands of the Shi clan by chance. It's a pity that the divine jade immortal fetus that contained the body of the mysterious heaven immortal monarch was obtained by Shirtian Taoist. If I could obtain the body of the mysterious heaven immortal monarch, I might be able to obtain the inheritance of the mysterious heaven scripture. I might even have a glimmer of hope to become an immortal emperor in the future. Shi Wuji thought to himself with a trace of regret in his eyes. Although the Shi clan was wantonly searching for Shirtian Taoist was as cunning as a ghost. They had yet to find his whereabouts until now. What Shi Wuji did not know was that Shirtian Taoist was standing obediently beside Ling Xiao. That's right, Shirtian Rat was very obedient at this moment, and he was very nervous. He tried his best to restrain his aura, and his breathing became extremely stable. He was afraid that the Shi clan would discover something unusual about him. Ever since he entered the Qianyuan stone shop, he was very worried and frightened. However, no one was paying attention to Shirtian Rat at this moment. Everyone's eyes were on Shi Wuji and the last piece of divine jade immortal fetus. They wanted to see what kind of treasure would appear in the last piece of divine jade immortal fetus. Huff. Shi Wuji took a deep breath and closed his eyes slightly. When he opened his eyes, there was a trace of dazzling sharpness in his eyes. His hands emitted dazzling immortal light and dazzling runes as they slowly fell towards the divine jade immortal fetus. The divine jade immortal fetus trembled slightly. As Shi Wuji broke down the divine Dao aura and immortal Dao aura, the stone layer quickly fell off. However, this time it seemed to take a long time. Shi Wuji was very cautious. Although his speed was still very fast, this piece of divine jade immortal fetus was incomparably huge. It would take a long time to completely open it. However, everyone was very patient. As the stone layer fell off layer by layer, the anticipation in everyone's eyes grew stronger. Master, it's over. If Shi Wuji really opens the profound heaven sword, you will definitely lose. Shirtian Rat said with worry and anticipation. His intestines were about to turn green with regret. This piece of divine jade immortal fetus was sold from his hands to the Shi clan for only a few 100,000 immortal crystals. He, Shirtian Taoist, was known as the treasure-seeking rat. He never thought that one day he would fall for this and give away a treasure to someone else. If I had the profound heaven sword, how could it have fallen into the hands of this guy? Even the body of the profound heaven immortal lord was snatched away by him. My life is so bitter. Shirtian Rat's heart was bleeding as he wailed. Profound heaven sword? I'm afraid not. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth curving upwards. Boom. At this moment, a dazzling immortal fetus bloomed from the divine jade immortal fetus, and a sharp aura rose. A mysterious and ancient sword intent instantly broke through the layers of stone layer, and appeared before everyone. Clang, clang, clang. At this moment, all the experts in the heaven courtyard who used swords as weapons trembled. They felt their swords buzzing and emitting a strange fluctuation, as if they were worshipping the King of Swords. What treasure is this? It has such a terrifying sword intent. Someone exclaimed with a trembling voice. Peek. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.